All right, we are live. What's going on?
Yeah, man, we gotta do that intro, man. We're a little rusty, man. Sort of like the old heads coming back on the court, man, trying to get up on the blacktop, trying to say, hey man, let's go and run a quick one.
Hmm.
Let's get a quick run in. So let's what's the today's date, man? What is today's date? Let me see.
Yeah, March 28th, March 18th, 2023.
Oh yeah, March 2023. Okay. Well, that's what we've been told, you know. Shout out, shout out, shout out. Oh, Gus T Renegade still doing his thing over there in the cows, man. Salute to that brother. Anyway, man, what's been going on, man? What's up with you?
Not much. Same old, same old.
Same old, same old. Yeah, man. It's been a while, man. It's been definitely a while since we have touched base with the people, but no time like the present, man, to get a quick one in, kind of warm up the engines, get Chewy, get out from the outer rim, man, and bring a little concept to the people, whatnot.
Yep.
We was talking. What was it, yesterday or the day before yesterday? Where I was like, man, we need to go ahead and discuss this, and I think it was sort of dealing with the political spectrum right now that's going on, like how politics is kind of like taking a different rung as far as like your perception on everything. Hey, look, go in there and close the door, okay? You can say hello. Say you want to say hello to Uncle Paradox, huh? Yeah, she wants to come here. Come on, get out. How did you get in there? What did you do? How did you do that? Get from under the table. This is crazy, man. I didn't even know she was here like this. Go in the room, okay? I'll get you later, all right? All right. You want to say hello real quick? Come on. Say it.
Hi.
What's up?
All right. All right. Yeah, a little cold break. She had to let herself be known. But anyway, man, we was talking about the political spectrum, and we was talking about what Richard Spencer and all these guys and things of that nature, as far as like how the conservative politics are kind of taking a turn for the worse. Uh, would you describe yourself as a conservative?
Yeah.
So what did you tell me? I don't even want to I want you to say it, what you told me verbatim. As far
As
as
far as what?
like when I said, hey man, we need to do a program on this, like what you told me verbatim, as far as like how you felt about how uh the conservative tenants are looking now, and you felt bad about what you was leaning towards. So I don't want to put any words in your mouth. I want you to kind of describe what you was thinking at the time, and how you came to that conclusion.
Oh, about swing. Oh, about moving progressive.
Yeah, like what is your thought pattern on that? Because I think that it was
Oh
very
no, just because you have to suspend so much reality if you're just getting overloaded with information anyway.
right.
You know what I mean? It's just suspending reality. But boy, the you know politics and culture it just doesn't mix well with the internet. You know what I'm saying? So it's just interesting that people who are, I mean, the best way to put it, not to interject race necessarily, but it just seems that you would think if it was if this culture was just one type of people, it would just be the male gender um, having to protect itself, from the rest of the society because maybe that gender had, perceived power for a certain amount of time.
Uh-huh.
And then the other side of that is, accessing that power, at least the perception of it, I guess, and reality both. But then when you interject lots of cultures into a space, you know, you pick a side, unfortunately. And so if you're not choosing, I mean, you're really in a weird way. If you're on the right, I mean, it's always been this way. It ain't nothing new, really, though. But you're picking white male, straight white male, and maybe even some other groups that fall under white men. You're gonna have to protect them, and that's a reality that you have to suspend. And I don't know if it's possible
Mm.
for a long term, for a long amount of time. It just depends on how sensitive you are to information. So if you can, so like I follow like Patrick Bet David,
Yeah.
PBD
Yeah.
Podcast Valuetainment. Now he's an Iranian man, and so I'm watching American people come on the show and say things that he is not going to respond to. He's not going to respond. He's going to just let it go over his shoulder. And I'm sure he's done it his whole
When,
life.
when has his name turned? When he was born in Iran, wasn't he? He's not even first generation American, right? He was
But
born there.
he's an immigrant.
Yeah, Patrick. Yeah. So he
Yeah.
came to this country very, very young. By the way, he's raised here. Patrick is. But when do
Huh.
you think he? When do you think they changed his name to Patrick? Because I think he said his real name before. But
Ooh, I don't
I'm
know.
just curious. Like,
Well,
what kind of decision
he
that's
was born. He
made?
was born in Iran. They
Right.
escaped Iran when he was
Persecution
maybe
during the
12. I
early
don't know.
'70s extradition and all that. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah,
But
12 or 13, and then
yeah,
then
yeah.
he went to Germany. He went to Germany for a little bit, and then came to America.
I just always wondered.
But I mean, he's a capitalist. He's a millionaire. So I get
Yeah.
his perspective, and he went through whatever he went through as growing up, and got successful in sales and insurance or
Okay.
whatever. So I mean, he has it is what it is. It just culturally speaking, it's funny. Is what I'm trying to say. Because if you have certain ideas, race isn't necessarily going to matter, uh, or culture. You just have fundamentals that you believe in based off how you grew up. So you can kind of, I mean, you really don't have a choice at the end of the day. And so, but to watch him, and it's not even him. It's just watching Jason Whitlock,
Oh
or
God.
watching Candace Owens, or watching I don't know if you know who Tim. Not Tim. What's the guy's name? Yeah, Tim. Tim Cass, URL,
I know who Tim Cass is. Yeah.
or Tim
Yeah.
Cass, who's half Asian, half white. Or I
Yeah.
mean, I could just
Yeah.
I could just run. It's just many people. Or matter of fact, even the guy from Daily Wire, which is really funny because it's not race based, but it's sexuality based. But it's funny because what's my guy's name from Daily Wire? What's that guy's name? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, yeah.
Real
While you're on that, I'm gonna go ahead and send out some shout outs to the
Daily
chat. I'm surprised
Wire.
that we even got that many people even watching right now. But
Daily
salute, salute,
Wire.
salute. Yeah, BGS has a question for you, Paradox. BGS was asking
One
how
second.
how do you define yourself as a conservative? So I want you to save that one. Salute Kareem Austin. What's up, brother? James S. Salute, salute. Pragmatic Prime. Salute, salute. So
That
yeah, we
guy's
may
name.
be taking some questions from the chat.
Daily
So you have
Wire.
some questions. I know it's been a long time since we've been on. But yeah, I just thought it just with this discussion that we had, I wish we kind of like taped it in because it was just like kind of organic and our best. We say this all the time. Our best programs are the ones that we don't even record. So I mean, it's just it's crazy, but yeah, like back to what you were saying. Do you want to answer that question first on why do you or how do you define yourself as a conservative?
As far as what?
just like from your point of view, I mean, how, even if you don't, how you want to answer it, but it just says, how does Paradox define himself as a conservative? I guess
Oh,
it's just
just
like a question.
just some of the basic beliefs of conservatism. That's all.
And what will you term that to be like exactly? Like from your point of view, not nothing major, but just if it's not like tenets or
Just traditional.
Okay, okay.
You know, basically.
And back to what you were saying, you was talking about how these different group dynamics, right? People, I guess, that will be identified as non-white, where they got to fall under this so-called protective type of measure to protect whiteness at all costs, when it comes down to what now is labeled as conservative, or it gets you in a mind
I
because
mean,
it may be fucked up.
I'm not sure if it's. I don't. That's what I'm saying. I'm not sure if it's race though. I just
Okay.
know that.
Yeah, I don't want to put words in my interpretation of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know if it's race related, but I mean, it's a category that you have to be in, obviously. But
Uh-huh.
it's just funny because you look at who has power and what power is being threatened. And again, it's my perception, of course, but what power is being threatened is kind of like, yeah, you know. I'll put it this way, and I hate. That's why I say I hate to say it's race because I think politically, people on the right have to posture themselves a certain way because they're going against the people on the left. If that
Okay.
makes any sense. So,
Okay.
personal feelings and how to operate a society, what I mean, versus having debate. That's why it's tricky just because of that. It's not necessarily honest in a sense. It's just that it's a position you're taking. And so it's funny because that's what it is. Kind of like straight male, straight white male. You got to either protect him or the other side would be all the other stuff, whatever else falls under the other umbrellas. And it's
Right.
not really straight white man. It's really maybe conservative or traditional society, which you may define as that. But it's just that you know what I mean. It's just that's who represents it. That's who has obviously going to have most of the power in this civilization. But it was just a funny, it's just a funny position to be in if you just look at it how it plays out, online or whatever. Because if you try to interject race, if you do it funny, or if you do it like deprecating, or if you do it a certain way, it's tolerated. But white people on the right, at least online, they're not going to give space for you to sound like a victim in any form or fashion. You have to talk a certain way. So it's
That's
funny.
correct.
That's all I'm trying to say.
I think I
It's
think
just a
that
funny.
word.
It's just a funny thing because if you do it a certain way, they are because in a funny way, it's complicated because I'm speaking sort of narrow because in reality, not to go too far off what you was asking, but in reality, at the end of it, put it this way, right? I follow a lot of Asian stuff, right? So Koreans, Japanese, Chinese people from their countries and from this country, right? And from Canada. And everybody's sort of pretending to be Western or pretending or have accepted certain things, right? But like if you ask the South Korean to go into the DMZ area, whatever it's called, or go into North Korea, right? All of a sudden it gets real. And there's definitions based off of war. And like it's a weird thing, because they're acting a certain way, but they're kind of acting like Westerners because that's who protect them, that's who gives them security, that's who interjected democracy or whatever you want to call it into their society to create economies, and you know what I'm saying, right? To sort of
Mhm.
live kind of a Western life through their own creation, though. So they're being Korean and they're doing their own thing, but me and you understand what the backdrop is, obviously, where this coming from. So it's funny because if you talk to one of them just in general about about our society and you hear them talk, it is going to devolve into race, meaning that I'm Korean. I'm not known as I'm not going to be considered, in America. This is them saying this. It's not me saying it. Beautiful female, attractive male, strong male, tough male, a certain chiseled chin and a certain look. Not even necessarily even blue eyes or blonde hair, not to even to that level, but just they know inherently when you say America, what you're talking about. You're not talking about black people. You're not talking about Asian people. You're talking about people who identify, as white or Caucasian or European or whatever you want, however they want to label themselves, or Western or whatever. They're aware of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're aware of the wars. They're aware of how they got to America. They know their position, and they even feel good now because Asia as a whole is on a rise, and so in effect, it gives them more attention and more access in America. And you can see it happening obviously real time. And so it's funny listening to an immigrant or people who come from immigrant parents from a place that has got more power and some more protection even for them on some level, and obviously economic. It's just a funny thing because
You're kind of breaking up a little bit. Can
shoot, that mess
can
up
you
my
repeat a
feed.
little bit?
Hello,
Yeah, can you repeat what you was just saying a little bit
wish I
right
could
now?
turn that off. Hello,
Yeah, you was good just a couple of seconds ago, and then you kind of
test.
like,
Can you hear me?
yeah, you good now. Go ahead. Can you hear me? Hello.
To mess up my feed.
Hello. Can you hey, from the chat? Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Hello.
All right. So you I can hear you. Can you hear me? Paradox.
Man, I think they messed up my feed. Drop a like, folks. Man, it's gonna mess up my feed.
I think that
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you good. Can you hear me though?
I don't even know. I don't remember how to. I don't remember how to get back to my. I hate that.
You was talking about the culture. Do you remember?
Oh, y'all do hear me. But then why I can't hear DC?
Oh, so you can't hear me. Can you
I don't
guys
hear you,
hear me
DC.
in the chat? Let
Man,
me know if you guys can hear me. Uh,
they messed up my link.
because if that's the case, then I can drop and then come back. If that's
I wonder if the headset is doing it.
I don't know. I guess they can't hear me because I
Can you hear me?
yeah, I'm gonna go out and come back in then. That's what I'm about to do. Just keep talking about what you was talking about and I'll come back.
No, 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 no. I got it. Don't go nowhere. You
So
good?
you can hear me? You can hear me
No,
now?
it's not you. It was my line got interrupted, and I forgot how to reconnect it, but I remember now. So
All right, so can
because
can everybody hear?
it cuts my feed, but we good now.
We good? Okay, so
Yeah,
just the chat, you got to help us out because we a little bit, like I said, we a little bit rusty, man. We be shooting jumpers from
yeah. I
from.
remember. I remember I remember how to do now.
Okay, cool, cool, cool. They can hear both of us now. All right, cool, 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 cool. Thanks, BGS. I appreciate it. We
Yeah, but
we shoot jumpers all over the place, things clanging off the rim, man. But I'm here to clean the glass. Let me clean the glass whole time, man. Let me get the glass and you know what I'm saying. Straight barbecue, you jam bammers from off outside here. Ah, right. Nah, but go ahead, man. What you were saying about you was
but
kind of in the
anyway,
pocket.
so just hearing different people from an immigrant standpoint just take positions because they are. I mean, I don't. Like I said, it's so hard to talk about black people and race and white people. It's just difficult for me. But I hear an immigrant talk about it. It's more interesting because they know what the country is. To me, it's really no confusion there. I mean, they can be manipulated, obviously, depending on if they're around certain groups of people. But when trying to hear them in their raw form, young ones, by the way, people in their 50s and ones in their 20s, hearing them just
Uh-huh.
sort of just talk, hours of it, right? And knowing, watching them, know their place and know their position. It's just funny because it's just, what I mean. It's no politics. It's nothing behind it. They're just people just talking on the internet and just like, man, they know, like, not that they know, but that it's clear that what when you say America, who you're talking about, and the different sides to that, and what they're going through, and you having maybe to even pick a side and having to just take it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I was when we were talking. That's what I was kind of pondering about. If you want to be on the right, say I want to be on the right because say I'm just saying I believe in marriage, right? One man,
Right.
one
Right.
woman, regardless of the history and all the details about what all that means and blah blah blah, right? Just simple,
Right.
simple stuff, right? One man, one woman. Pay your taxes. Don't run the debt up. You know, watch. Be careful with regulations. Let capitalism do what it do. More freedom, more rights, more state rights. More individual freedom, gun rights, Christian values. I want to still say Judeo-Christian, but just Christian, American, Southern Christian Baptist Church values.
Okay. Okay.
Um, Even something as simple as being virgins, the man and the woman, the boy and the girl being virgins and getting married, and that's the first time they have sex is on their wedding night. Hyper traditional, man, boys being taught how to, do certain things, and girls being taught how to do certain things, and then unifying that under marriage and building a foundation from there, and sort of, and again, I would consider that obviously that's going to be maybe a little far right, at least where we are now, but just that, and not even getting into, it stabilizes the household, and all the other stuff that people are trying to spin to deal with divorce and to deal with single people and to deal with people trying to figure it out in this tough, even in a society that has this much money, power, and success, that it's still can still be tough just to be a human being, but just fundamentally understanding that uh, um, a society that you're trying to be more like what the Bible would references, the like Sodom and Gomorrah, not trying to have that kind of society. I mean, that's what this society is, obviously. But so it doesn't matter what I just said because I feel like the society is literally that in the Bible, right? So unhinged sexual desires, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? And even on the financial side, just that money doesn't mean anything anymore. There is no foundation, there is no fundamental principles to the financial system. It's greed. It's super wealthy people around the whole world. It's just manipulating the financial markets. I know you talk about the bank closures and stuff, but just how they're manipulating all the markets, and not sure what they're really doing, but it just doesn't seem like it's sound and principle. You can just print, you can just run up debts. Nothing gets paid for, even you know what I mean. But we're all being held to certain things. So it's sort of on one hand as individual conservative values, but then not to be rambling too much, but then I was telling you about how, well, wash that away, right, and say, well, who's giving me something? Who has the better options? So then,
Hmm.
then you say on the left, so it's the left. So the left is going to pander to me. So forget the straight male, forget all of the other stuff, right? And the values and stuff, right? And just say, okay, because the society is selling me on the values, and I believe in those values because how I maybe grew up, how I was raised. But if I just say, okay, but in real life in this country, that stuff don't even mean anything. So now who's giving me the most? And if I go to the left and I go to the right, and if it's the left, it is what it is. And I mean handouts. No different than any corporation that gets handouts to anybody else. Well, if you're doing more, or if you're providing for protection, even if it's lip service, if you're talking to me, if you can see me, if you can hear me, even if you're using it to for your own debauchery, if you're still giving me 1% and the other side might be giving me 0%, my own personal opinion about that, then I mean, what am I? Should I be leaning more left? Right? So anyway,
Hmm.
it's just pondering thoughts, because it's kind of funny, because if the left is saying, well, I'm going to give you more stuff now, you're going to suffer. You're going to suffer, but I'm gonna deal with you. And when I say left, I'm talking about white people. I'm talking about dealing with you, and how they deal with black people on the left, and we know what that looks like.
Hmm.
Do I say, well, okay, well, the society says, oh yeah, you are a black person. Okay, I'm gonna have to accept that I'm a black person, and all the things that comes with that,
Right.
and all the propaganda that is ran against me, opposition is ran against me.
Right.
Whatever, single mother, absent father, whatever
Hmm.
the right says, right? The whole gambit of things, right?
Hmm.
Whatever they want to run against us, all of it, right? Uneducated, monkey, whatever it is, right? No values, on and on and on. And so it's like, well, okay, well, damn, okay, so I'm labeled as this person. You know what I'm saying? So they should I mean, so okay, who's hearing me? Well, who are they supporting? You know, you know what I'm saying? If that makes any sense. So it's a funny thing, because you know, even at the state level, if you're saying, well, on the right, not necessarily always, because everybody, everything is negotiated. They work through deals together, of course, on everything. So I don't want to be, you know, trying to polarize it, but you know what I'm saying. If it's like, well, we want more benefits, the people need more from the government. They need more. And I have a whole different opinion about it on a much higher level, but just on just basic, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, because you spend, you're making it up anyway. So dealing with poverty, dealing with drug abuse, etc. Who seems to be more, at least, I mean, on some level, empathetic to these people? It seems like, would it be the left, or should you be harsher? Should you be more aggressive on criminal on what you would consider criminal behavior? And then you get torn, because if I say the cartels are running things in this country, in the underground world, and you can't say Mexican,
Hmm.
I have a problem with that. But that's the left. If the virus was in Wuhan, and then that means that unfortunately, we're gonna attack Asian people in America, and they're gonna have to take it. It is what it is. But you can't do that. You can't do that on the left. You have to actually suppress. I mean, it got crazy on the left, where you can't say anything. So, you know what I'm saying. And then on the flip side, on the right, now they've leveraged the word racist, and now we're all racist.
Right.
So it's insane. It's insane. It's political insanity in my brain, to be honest with you. So, so I'm thinking, like, okay, so
So
what is the left going to give me reparations? Well, shit, fuck the right. Can I move to San Francisco and get this $5 million, this house, this $1 house, and get this bread? Because people, I laugh, because
we have
think about it like this: if you're in Vietnam, right,
that's
or
funny.
Korea or Iran, and it's getting bombed, and the American president and his army comes and gets you, forget all the reasons why and how it happened. You just some peasant in some village that just got burnt down. They killed your whole family. Who cares why and who did it, even if the Americans did it? And you get on a helicopter and they bring you to America, and you're living your life. I mean, your loyalty is gonna be your loyalties at the end of the day. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like, well, man, do I try to give myself to something and not worry about myself? You know what I'm saying? Do I give myself up for a bigger cause and say, well, I want to save America from my from how I see it, to save the country? Or do I say, well, man, at this point, everybody getting benefits. It's all debauchery. It's globalized. These we've American citizens, in my opinion, have allowed corporations and the government, which I would obviously want to zero out the whole thing, to be honest with you, and slash everything, personally speaking. But in a, in a different conversation. But it, anyway,
So,
it's just a funny thing. That's all.
so the I guess what interested me into kind of like really deciding that I guess this is something that we can talk about as far as like make it a program is because it was interesting to me because I know you, and I would think that some of your concerns when it comes down to um, the left may come to that question where it kind of merges into you making a decision about your identity that may be something that you can't reconcile, and then you don't have nowhere to stand, which means that what can they actually do for you politically? Is that am I making that up,
Well,
or is that kind of like
no, the
something
thing
that
is,
you're thinking?
what it's like it's layers though, because America is really just it's a lot of like you said, it's a lot of things going on, and so it's a lot of fronting, just in general though. It's a front in a lot of ways. So it's like, do you say I have morality and I'm going to hold a position? Period. Not going to worry about it. Or do you say, man, people eating out here, they're getting it, and money's flowing. Global corporations are doing whatever and getting protection, getting bailed out. People, we're invading countries. Contractors are getting millions of dollars. Like when you look at like what America's really doing, and then they're trying to hold, but then people are trying to hold people to this morality thing. But like y'all out here eating though. So does it shift your morality and say, well, why do we eat? What's the point at this point? Because I look at it like you got $30 trillion in debt, right, in this country. And I
That's a
think
lot of
most
money.
of that most of that is our own. We owe it back to ourselves, right?
Hmm.
But in 10 years it'll be 30, it'll be 50, $60 trillion.
Hmm.
These numbers, from my understanding, you can't conceive of. There's just so much, it's so much. The numbers are so large.
Yeah, it's an
So
astronomical number. Yeah,
right,
very large.
it's a fiat basic. You get into whole. It's a fiat currency. Get into all that type of stuff.
Mhm.
But like, just if I and nobody wants to tell the truth, but I hear experts talk about, hey, we got to do this and we got to do that. But I'm like, that can't be real. I know you have a position because you're a business person, but
Right.
I think it's over. That's what I'm saying about the morality part, is that, are we holding on to something that is already gone? It's fleeting. Is that, should we be having a completely different? So my point about the, not to go all the way out over there, but my point about from the left's perspective is that, do you just join in because at this point it don't matter? Is my whole point. Is that
Mm.
if I'm trying to hold on to something, it's not really there. You know what I mean? Because it's so much fake or real. It's so much money you can get. You can buy real things with it, of course. But it's so much money, it's so much power, it's so much access. Is it just trying to find a place to go to get something and not worry about the other stuff? So if the left is saying we're going to give you all this stuff and we're gonna pander to you, etc., is just, why not just do that and not worry about it, and don't get into trying to better men and better women and all this other, and you know what I'm saying, right? Getting into disputes and arguments about low level things that in real life, the society is it's gone, it's over with, right? It doesn't even matter. So why put any energy into it? Let me just, get what they're offering and do what I want to do with it, personally speaking. So that's why I was making that had made the comment, because holding the values for what? This society arguably could be, and I wouldn't even say like crumbling or collapsing, or not even that language, but that could be it. But just that it's so far out here on the financial side that, I mean, it's going to be bad when it
Mhm.
go, whenever that is. So who cares about man and woman? Who cares about family? Who cares about making schools better? It's like you got us running around here pretending to do these things, but you done already sold the country off. So, for example, outside of automation, we had the pandemic, and to me, the America, as far as the citizens, we're exposed because we don't have no control, and it showed. And so our government, to keep us in check, had to really put pressure on our manufacturing base overseas to get what we needed to get, right? And that was piss poor, in my opinion. So it's kind of like, well, that's what you would be screaming about and saying, hey, we need to get back to this, but they're not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing it. I just feel like it's done. Whatever it is, whatever this has been turned into, you can't turn the clock back. You can't go. You're not going to build a manufacturing base in America. You're lying when you say that. You're not. You and me and you talk about this, and you're in my mind constantly when I'm making this fight with myself,
Oh man, don't
which is
bring me
for
into
for
this.
for
You think
America
I done
to it.
turned you,
No,
I
no,
done
no, no, no. It's
turned you
not
to
that.
the
I mean,
dark side.
we haven't been chopping it out. It's just
Yeah,
observation.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
The
Go
thing
ahead,
is
go ahead.
that for capitalism to truly exist, and this is the a point about the big lie. For capitalism to truly exist, you need slaves. Period. There's nothing else to talk about. I don't have to get into no who's the slaves, when it happened, where it happened. At you fundamentally need slaves. However you want to frame
Let's
that,
keep
right?
it
However
rudimentary.
you want to label those people, you need to make that happen somewhere on the planet. And so that's how I know it won't ever come back. Unless you have a complete collapse, of course, and poverty and complete disaster, then you can kind of reset it all over again, right? Because everything will get reset. But unless you reset everything, it's a joke. It's a joke. So, but the whole, as far as the media goes, and all the writers and experts and everybody online and on television goes, they're trying to sell the idea that these things can exist, and we know it's not really true. But what else do we have to hold on to? Yeah. So it's not even for you not a turn. My values are not going to really change. I'm just talking about what can I get is what I'm talking about.
Right, right, right,
What
right.
what's the whole
What's reality and what's
what's the
not
whole
true.
point? Is kind of like, well, I want to be here, but if you're offering
Right,
this, and I already know this is bullshit anyway, then why not? why, why not take?
right.
Not saying the money's not saying you're gonna really get anything obviously from the left anyway, but I'm just making a point. Is that
Yeah,
it did make me think about kind of like, well, hold up, if the left is doing all this stuff and the right is really just for white men, and they're mad right now because because they're getting their ass whipped by the left, so they're angry about it. I have to support these motherfuckers because if I'm anti-gay, I'm basically going to be put with the white. I mean, Kanye
that's what
is
I'm
going to be
saying.
loved by white straight men because he said fuck the Jews and fuck the gays and everybody. It's like, well, you see what I'm saying? It,
Yeah,
it puts him on an island because white men aren't truly, in my opinion, going to support a non-white person. It's just not in there. It just doesn't make any sense because whiteness or Europeanness or Westernness is their thing. No matter how you want to slice it, because I don't really care about race, to be honest with you. It doesn't even really matter. I just have to use it because people can only understand through that kind of frame.
right.
But at the end of the day, it's just Western civilization. It's theirs, right? It's theirs. It's nothing to argue about it. It's nothing to get deep. It's not even heavy. It's their shit. They do it. They set it up. Because I don't even want to get into, they copied it from people. That don't even mean anything. At the end of the day, that's irrelevant. It's kind of like this is just theirs, and we're here with it.
All right,
And
so
so,
let me
anyway,
pause you.
whatever.
Let me pause you for a second because I think that for people that is first listening to us, this could come off a different type of way. But
I mean,
this
what do
this
I care?
say
I don't care.
I know you don't care. I'm just saying from my
I'm just
because
being me.
I'm the communicator. I want you want to be like fuck it. If you don't get it, you don't get it. I get it, but that's in context. I want you to stay where you at right now. I'm
Well, I'm
just
not
doing the
smart enough
explaining.
to break it all down. So
No, 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 no,
it's
no,
just
no, no. Don't
emotions.
do it. Don't do it. Don't do that. Don't chaos like
It's
me.
much
But
smarter folks online that's listening than me. I'm just an average Joe
nah, bro. Come
or
on,
average
man.
Tyrone, I should say.
Don't do it. Don't do it. But let me say this because I think that uh it goes into to the title of what we titled the program, and I hear this a lot, especially with people talking about um whether it's sexual relations, whether it's progressive, whether it's trying to deal with the whole racial question, the whole thought pattern about black manhood, and I like that you put manhood in the title. I want to ask you this question because I know it's unfair. You're not the person to just be like, I can decide for everybody what this is, but I'm just asking you personally, with your experience as far as what you come to understand in your honest observation from all the years that you've been on this planet, the locations that you've been in this planet, what you have experienced and different things of that nature. Um, what would you define as manhood one, and then as a caveat, black manhood two? I know it's an unfair question, but I
Shoot,
just wanted to
I
give
don't.
you.
I
I'm
I need
asking you a
someone.
question.
I need someone to give me the
It's a
definition.
framework. No, no, no,
I
no.
can't.
It's a framework. It's a
I need
framework.
someone
So,
to
so you
give you
just
that. That's a hell of a. That's. I guess not a. It's not a big deal, big question, but um, shoot, what is black manhood, or
no, no.
and what?
What is manhood like as a global concept? Because I would
Mhm.
imagine that people have a certain type of definition of what they think manhood globally is, and then for our subgroup or the group that we're forced into the classification of, what would you think that that is defined in our particular aspect of it from our unique
You don't
vantage
think you
point?
don't think that's you don't think that's a I don't want to say it's a hard question. I mean, it's a basic question, but you can approach it a lot of ways. So when you say manhood, you just mean you just mean growing up.
Well, I gave you an open ended discussion because
I know that, but it could mean a
I
lot.
hear
I
people
would just
describe it. I hear people
basic.
describe it a lot like everybody feels this way. So I'm like,
Well, I
I'm
mean, the thing
listening to
is
folks.
that I'm looking at.
Hold on.
Go
Let
ahead,
me
go
say
ahead.
this first. I hear people talk about it like me and them grew up in the same area. Like you know me, I know you, and your definition of manhood going to basically reflect on me. And I'm just like,
Right.
I don't know. Some of those tenets I can kind of get with, but some of those I don't really, I don't flow with. And it doesn't have anything based off whether it works or it doesn't work, because I have seen plenty of people that are so-called deemed financially successful that I would not really define as being masculine or a man. But I don't know what that means in the true sense of the word, because if you define manhood in those ways, then that's how it works. You see what I'm saying? Some people may have a definition of manhood as far as being able to solve a multitude of problems at the same time. Some people may have a definition of manhood and say, hey, I see that dude over there. Look, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go ahead and take this away from him. And that's my definition of manhood. And he ain't gonna be able to do anything about it. Or if he can do anything about it, then he was just a better man than me. Like it's a confluence of a lot of different paradigms and paradoxes. Shout out to your name. It's a lot of multi universes of decisions that are made that makes up that particular question. And that's why I kind of characterize it from your viewpoint. I think it would be unique because in this particular space that we're in, I hear a lot of people talk about, you know, what success is for black men, what's successful when it comes down to family, what is a black man masculinity. This is how you should operate, this is not how you should operate. So there's a lot of different viewpoints, and
Mhm.
people point to the framework of what has worked in the past, and then point to the frameworks of what hasn't worked in the past and how to move forward. And I just want to kind of get your unique view on that, because we are in a unique place, right? Because I hear a lot of people bring up PG County as this beacon of black success. And it just baffled me, but I don't know if it baffles me because, you being here and you being in this area, you're around these people would consider people in the DMV, or I would not even the DMV, I would say DC in particular, right? The DC area, right? As being successful black people here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's been kind of like the narrative, right? Like these are where the successful black people are, quote unquote,
You don't think
unquote.
that's true?
No, I think
You
it's
sound
true.
skeptical.
I'm not sounding skeptical. I'm trying to get a unique definition for some brothers
Yeah,
that
but
can
see,
understand it from that inside.
you're not asking the question honestly though. I'm naive. You're not asking the question honestly.
Let Daddy talk to Uncle Paradox a little bit longer, okay? All right, and then I'll do it later with you, okay? 1 minute. We're not negotiating like that. What did I say? All right. Later, okay? All right, go ahead, man. What you saying?
No, I was saying you're asking the question, but I said I'm naive. You're not asking that question honestly, though. I mean, it's a question that you've already mulled over for 30 years and have answered it in probably 50,000 different ways. Because it all basic manhood or basic boyhood or masculinity, just the basis of it is just obviously males or obviously decided by chromosomes and boys have behaviors and then we grow into however that particular group decides that male genitalia, how it should behave and how it should be within that group to get maybe the most out of it, depending on well how powerful that group is. And so that basics is one thing, but you're getting more into the I guess the American social part of it, not
No,
really
no, 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 no,
just
no,
the
no, no,
basis of
no.
saying I'm a boy, and then how do I
No, no,
transition to
no, no.
becoming a man?
I was creating a framework.
Yeah,
I didn't
but
want
I
to
told you,
add that to it, but
I'm naive
you
to the
know,
sense that I wish that boys had to go through certain things to become a man. I will say that obviously some communities have traditions. I don't know if we necessarily have traditions outside of like high school or something, but that I can think of right now. But so I don't know, So basically, trying to help a boy become a man or you get to a certain age and it's time to get to start to talk to the child to explain to him what he is, basic stuff though, nothing very crazy, but just what he is and what the expectations are, and all of that is determined on the time frame as well, and obviously your household and how informed you may be. But and a lot of this is obviously has changed a lot lately. But you jump from that to Prince George's County
no. I'm saying
and and
people talk about
success.
success. Well, it's funny because we have a very intimate thought pattern when it comes
All
down
right.
to that. Is what I'm saying. So I'm just trying to
Well, it's tricky.
understand
It's tricky
an
because
outside. I'm trying to understand an outside view because from
I
the
don't.
inside looking out,
Uh,
it's different than
yeah, but
being
I don't know what
outside
you
looking
mean
in.
from right about you just talking about. Because see, I'm looking at things two ways, right? One sense, it's not really in this type of society. Like I said, in the time frame that we're living in, I mean, it's being a man. I think it's just not that simple. You know what I mean? So I mean that's probably why it can be messed with. I think on some level because because of how the place is structured. But so when you're asking that question, are you asking in a sense just that in a way that everybody's functioning? If that makes any sense, like everybody's doing their functions, not in the sense of a man that is a conqueror or an invader, or have systems in place to build a certain type of. Why are you
No,
laughing? I'm just
no,
trying to
because
get to
no,
where
that
we are.
because
No, no, no.
no,
What I mean
no,
is
that
that
I
you have
agree.
okay. So when you have civilians,
All
for
right,
example, let me
all right.
start there. When you have civilians, and then say in a society you need labor, right? And I
Mm.
would say maybe in a more advanced society, you have different groups to provide labor because of advancements where a lot of the citizens have more things and they're not going to do certain things, so you go and get labor, right? If you go get males and females to come into your land as labor, are those men and women? I don't know. They get labeled as immigrants, illegals, whatever, and so now they have to play roles because obviously all creatures on the planet has to play roles, so they play roles as males and females, obviously, right? Because of their genitalia, obviously, and internal organs, they can produce children or whatever and all that stuff, so they're playing certain roles at that level. And also men obviously are going to be more physical, so they may do more hard labor versus females, obviously, whatever, right? But are those considered men? You know what I mean? So I don't, I mean, I guess they are, sort of, kind of, it's very murky in a sense, you know, or what I consider, say, a guy like Bill Gates a man, versus I don't know whoever, or versus a fighter, or is a fighter just an entertainer who's a male? It's like you know what I mean? Like, is LeBron really a man, or is he just an entertainer? Does he play all those roles? You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, but he's not going to cut nobody's head off and take land. Obviously, he's not going to organize a group of people to burn a government down. So is that considered? And are those considered men? So I don't know about that word, man. I'm all over the place with that. My bad. Because I mean, most people are cowards. If I including myself, if I gave you a gun and put you somewhere, would you go AWOL? Were you a man up until that point? Are you a man because I created a safe space for you and
Right.
I allow you to express your manliness, but you're protected by 50 layers of people to allow you to
Oh
even behave
man.
that way?
Right. Right.
Can Donald
Right.
Trump be Donald Trump if I gave him a gun? I don't know.
Oh man.
Whoever else you want to, describe as a man or a woman or whatever. I don't know,
Okay.
man. So I'm all over the place with that.
Okay.
But to,
So
but to get away from there and just do with the basics, right? Just the regular
all
stuff,
right, let's start
the basic
very
stuff,
small. Let's start small,
right?
okay? Let's
Yeah, we
start.
start small. Let's
Yeah,
just do the basic
let's
stuff,
start
man. Forget all the other
if a
stuff.
kid if if your niece, my daughter, because she probably will ask you this because you hear me saying it. She's like, oh, Uncle Paradox, what is the man? Because she likes seeing you. She like playing with you for a host of reasons. Rock paper. She's still. I want to play rock paper scissors. Y'all. She loves that game. That now I can't stop. She plays with me even in her sleep. So, but
Mhm.
if she asks you what is a man, what would you tell her?
So you're saying, like, say, just on a very basic level,
I'm trying to get
she's now 16, and I have to give her some information. I can't talk all this other
right
stuff, right?
because she's gonna ask you like, yo, she
I
gonna
would
ask
I
that.
would tell I would tell her
She
there
probably
are
not gonna
no
talk to
I would
me
tell
about it.
her
She's gonna
that
talk to you about it.
I would tell her there are no men, don't have any children. Stay
Jesus.
to yourself and go make a bunch of money.
So you want to create?
That's that civilization is gone. We're all pretending. Don't do it. Stay to yourself, have a bunch of friends,
Oh man.
get a bunch of money, travel the world, live your life. Don't talk about no politics, and don't worry about nothing. Don't let people put nothing on your back. Don't worry about civilization or nothing. It's already done. Just enjoy yourself. Shoot. You wasted your energy and time. Building a family for who? For Donald Trump?
Oh
Who are you
man.
building your family for? Joe Biden? To use your family to go to war and die in Ukraine?
Oh man.
What are you building a family for? For Wells Fargo to put you in the debt? For for universities to put you in? What am I building it for? To get what out of? To be exploited even more? I mean, I don't know, man. It's weird.
So I I understand that answer. I understand where you're coming from. I guess when I ask it, right, and I'm
Mhm.
asking for a particular reason because I really think that people's mindsets are developed and they're pushed out because of patterns, right? Like it's patterns of behavior that you start to notice. Okay, this person this is what they feed off of, and this is what they respond to. So this stimulus, their stimuli, for whatever reason, this is what they deem to be whatever this is, and that generates movement for this person. And
That's
I
a
think
bar,
that
man. He tried call Quest. Stimulation
well,
stimuli.
what I'm saying is I think to get people moving in groups, you have to convince people that this is real or that this is
You
a
better.
real
If
thing.
you want a civilization, you better do
So
that. That's
the
critical.
more convincing that you do that this is a real or this is attainable, whatever the
Absolutely.
goal is, you get
Mhm.
people moving forward to accomplish a systematic goal. Like
Right.
systems are made of people at the end of the day,
Yes.
and
Yes.
systems can't exist without people believing in said thing moving forward.
Yes.
And I think that
Yes.
manhood is one of those things as far as like that kind of trajectory. Like this is the physical manifestation of this particular thing, and it's pushed out into being what this is, philosophy wise.
Mhm.
Don't whisper at me. What did I tell you? Go in, close the door. Go in, close the door right now. Now.
Let me ask you this question. So you remember when Joe Biden pulled out of Afghanistan, right?
Yeah.
Would you consider those men who were jumping on the
Hey, give me a minute. Go ahead and talk for a second. I'll be back.
well, it's a question for you though. So we're gonna have to do what we always do, I guess. Just wait until you get back.
All right, I'm back. Go ahead. That's fine.
No, I was just saying that remember when Joe Biden pulled out of Afghanistan? And there's so much to talk about there, but I just focus on one small part. Remember when that was it a DC-10 maybe? I don't know what the new ones are, but you know the big shipment planes and it was taking off,
Hmm.
and all those men,
Yeah, there was chasing it. I
quote
remember.
unquote, jumped on the wheels
I remember. Yeah,
and was falling off 10,000 miles in the air, right?
that shit was crazy. Like it looked like
Okay,
a movie.
what do
Actually, it looked
so
like
now?
some special
Now,
effects
what
movie. Yeah.
would you do? You define them as those particular people? Do you define them as men?
That's a good question.
Remember when America and France started to bomb Libya, and they had captured Gaddafi, the rebels, quote unquote, and they had him in the streets on live video, and they stuck a sword or a stick up his butt, and I think they shot him in the head or cut his head off or whatever. Was he a man? And when did he stop becoming a man at that point? And so maybe I used the word the wrong way. I think that's probably what I'm doing. Because
Well,
I don't know if those words mean anything, to be honest with you. I just think it's BS at the end of the day.
it means
Because you're not
something.
you're a man up until when Venezuela collapsed and all those men and all those so-called women and men came to America because their country collapsed and all of a sudden you can't be whatever you were. I guess trying to be a strong man holding down your neighborhood and then all of a sudden your country collapses and then you're running. Are you a bitch when you start running to America? I mean, what is that? What do you call those people? You have men in this country who are immigrants who run around here with massive egos, but you an immigrant. How are you even behaving like this? Who told you to act like this? It's almost like men, children, almost, or not even men, just egos, or some other word should be replaced with man, unless you have true power and trying to define even what that means.
Ah, so do manhood denote power as far as that group can manifest it against another group?
I don't know because I think, like you said, I'm probably getting away from the real conversation, which meaning that I'm born into a family or into a group, and I'm whatever my position is, it is, and I need to go through a process to become a man, right? Let me keep it there because I keep going too far.
That's what I'm
I
saying. Like,
realize
yeah,
that
keep it. Yeah,
that's my
keep
that's
it.
my fault. It's my fault. My mind keeps going all over the place.
You, you,
My
you,
bad,
you
bro.
you skip to the end too fast. Like that, you go all the way to the end of the book instead of
Yeah,
like you starting off real small. But go ahead.
because I don't honestly I don't see us as men. I just see us as drones. I don't buy a lot of the other concepts. I've been
Well, let's
taught
let
those
let's
concepts, and
yeah.
so I kind of live in
That's
the
the middle.
space of,
That's the
like
middle
I
part.
told you, being a conservative and following the rules. But I know personally it's not real. I know that I'm a drone, and I can be taken out at any time. I have to watch what I say. I have to act a certain way, and even that I have to necessarily even act like a man to fit into the
we
environment.
are
But at the end
we are.
of the day,
You know
your
what's wrong.
manhood can be taken at any moment. So then the question begs,
You know
even if
what's
you
wrong with us,
die for
bro.
your manhood, say what now?
Paradox. You know what's wrong with us, man. Us in particular. We are we are a group of, I would say, even from the very beginning, like even when we started to like even have conversations about some of this stuff,
Mhm,
I think that us being what I have defined as HQ in the
mhm.
States, it has it just it's hard to project that out, bro, for people that's not here or been here most of their life. Like they're not going to
America
understand
or the DC area?
the DC area because you're speaking when we speak about power dynamics, like we understand it's clear, like it's not you can't.
It's
be
crystal
around.
clear.
Yeah, you can't be around here and not see it. You know what I'm
No, it's
saying?
crystal
Like
clear.
it's not. We don't have delusions of statism or these other kind of things of, you know. That's why I'm kind of like always bare bones with it. But
It's
I don't
very,
understand.
no, it's very complicated because I mean the stitch all these things together requires an enormous amount of control and power. Enormous. So I think my point is that I think it's to stabilize a society, you do need the concepts of manhood and womanhood. Obviously, that's kind of a it's kind of a I think you do anyway, right?
So let me go base
I
level.
think
So
you do.
let me try to answer the question. I wanted you to kind of delve in it because you're the conservative. I'm the bleeding liberal on the panel.
Man, you ain't no liberal, bruh. You crazy. I would consider you maybe a moderate of some sort. The world has changed from 10 years ago,
I know,
at least
but
politically speaking.
hear
Not
me
in
out, man.
maybe even in reality on a lot of levels too, though. But we'll take the position. That's fine. I take that. We'll take
yeah,
that. I take those positions
so I'm gonna juxtapose.
because you don't have any blue hair, so you ain't really no progressive or liberal or whatever. Well, that's different anyway, I guess.
He manifests in his body in his dynamic, and that's what
Right.
I'm saying. Like, it's a different thing
Well, you would
because
consider yourself like what do they call it? What do they call liberal?
well,
This is
even
not traditional liberal. What do they call them now? They always got these new words.
but it's funny because most so-called liberals or whatever you want to call it, most white liberals are not poor, but most
No, they're
white
very successful
conservatives,
people.
yeah, most white conservatives on the base level are the poorest people in the country.
Yeah. I think economics on some level, it just depends on when it needs to be applied, has less to do with it. Same thing with saying you're a conservative, which I'm not a conservative from necessarily a Republican perspective, by the way.
Right.
And the only reason why I make a point about that is that obviously when everything switched on the
But
civil rights, I mean, you can't
isn't that
support.
interesting though? Isn't that interesting though to say something like that to kind of like manifest that factor on it? Like, because
Right.
I
Well, the
heard
question is,
talk about.
can you support your own demise? That's what I'm trying to get you to understand where I'm coming from. By the way.
No, I understand it. You know, I understand that. We talk about that
Right.
all the time. You know,
Yeah.
I had
Am
already
I?
deconstructed the paradigm of the pyramid and
Yeah.
how it is problematic as far as default. I'm
But I
trying
have
to
to
relay
pretend
to
because I
make
know it's
it out.
not for us. I have to pretend that I
But
have to.
that
I'm basically pretending to be honest with you. I'm pretending
but
because
that's the discussion.
I have conservative values, and you're not going to make me like a lot of other stuff. I'm not going to like it. It's cool. It is what it is, and I might even indulge in things, but I don't like it. At the end of the day, I prefer it not to be here. Even just like with junk food, I love junk food. I don't eat it. I wish it wasn't here, but it's here, and I deal with it. And I may even indulge in it, but it's still not good. I still wish it wasn't. You know what I'm saying? I still wish it
Uh,
wasn't around. And I don't even think necessarily the left is even representing freedom. But then again, you have to even dig into what that even really means because how do you manage certain things? At the end of the day, how do you hold things together? Because that's the problem is that people are making a lot of assumptions, but
right.
I think fundamentally, especially white people, Europeans, they have to be very careful because they're warmongers. And so getting into male and female and like what's going on in DMV is so less important on so many levels because they have to make sure they don't kill each other. Period.
Right.
Ain't
Exactly.
about nothing else and how you feel about people and what you think and how much you done
Right.
read books and all this stuff, what you think you know.
Right.
Really, if you understand and really
Exactly.
study European history,
Yeah.
European in the present, how they process information, how they think, how they view the
Yeah.
world, and their responsibility that they have
Yeah.
for their own people and for the world, even
Yeah.
in a sense, even
It's
civilize the
a
world,
zero sum
stabilize
game.
the world. It's
Yeah.
way
It's
beyond worrying
it's a
about
zero
the
sum
things that we're
game.
talking about. It's
Yeah.
beyond that. I
Yeah.
mean, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's a stratosphere away than worrying about
Yeah.
what's it's
Yeah.
it's it's
I
so
don't
be
win.
so my
I don't
brain has a
win.
hard time
Nobody
trying to
wins.
stay. It has a hard time trying to stay in that space because I fundamentally understand what's required to maintain 50 states.
Right.
50 constitutions, 50
Right.
governors,
Right.
history, critical history on how to try to maintain it. So many organizations communicating constantly across all the different states to try to hold it all together.
Mm.
And then they want
Mm.
to, and then we branched out to the globally. after World War I, and now we're trying to do this globally. And what's that require? And what have we not? What have we not stopped doing? We pulled out of Afghanistan. At least again, we're in a bunch of wars, but we just keep it simple. We pulled out of Afghanistan and did what? We was already playing with Ukraine going back into the 2000s. So it was already juicing anyway. It was already getting ready anyway, right? It wasn't 6 months. We're right back in a hot war.
Mm-hmm.
Officially on the books, on board. Everyone's aware of it. No confusion. You understand what I'm saying? Like that's the reality that we're living in. And people would argue for that reality to happen, meaning that for America to have its slaves and for America to have constant war allows us, depending on who you are in America, even if you're in a more poor area or even in a richer area, to allow us to maintain what we have here, to even have debates and conversations.
Um, Man, there's so many different
So
ways.
my bad. So okay, so back to DMV, right?
Uh-huh.
I would say from my perspective, obviously, which me and you have, we are completely opposed to this, obviously. I think,
Uh-huh.
but I think black people in this area is
Okay.
extremely successful.
Okay.
And if you know anything about history and you know where we are, it's freaky. It's almost freakish, to be honest with you. And not, like I said, I won't do no weird conspiracy. I won't get into anything about why. I'm not even gonna mess with that, right? Just gonna keep it on the surface. On the surface, just simply looking at it just from a naive eye, very successful. Impressively so. It is and you can, and if you want to start to put I don't want to do that. I know you said it. I don't want to start to layer no religious stuff on top of it and start calling it Mecca and all that type of stuff. It gets, everybody wants to, religiousize everything and deify everything and
Right.
put all that stuff on. I'm not going to sauce it to that level. That's just stupid. But yeah, I think so. Maybe probably Atlanta and Baldwin Hills and the suburbs outside of Detroit, the
Okay.
suburbs outside of Chicago, Nashville, Huntsville, different parts
Said
of Florida,
Plano, I
um,
guess there's Plano
uh,
one or
Houston,
DeSoto.
Houston.
Yeah.
I
Houston,
mean, honestly, a lot of places to be honest, even New Jersey, either
Missouri City or whatever.
northern New Jersey.
Right.
Extremes of extreme. And again, now when I'm using that language, I'm using that language as a from an American historical slave perspective. When I say what I'm the reason that's how I'm coming. That's where I'm coming from, by the way. Meaning that it is beyond impressive that for the type of society to this is that it's evolved to the point where you can even have stuff like that. And like you said, people don't even know it's been like that for like at least in this area for 40 years.
Right.
And so it's really old actually. People are knowing it now, I guess, because of
It's
the internet, but
generational now.
it's
Yeah.
old, really. Yeah,
Right.
it's three generations at least, if not
Yeah. At
four,
least
but at
three
least
generations.
three.
Right. Right.
And like you said, it's interesting. Like you said, when you get into the politics of it, though, because I know how you are, it gets weird because it's poverty. It's a lot of poverty. It's a lot of mistreatment.
Mhm.
So if you just let that part go and not worry about that too much, obviously, and what that looks like. I mean, it's impressive, and it's also a lot of exposure
Eh,
to
You know what's so
if you contrast uh using race, if you contrast us in different areas around here, and you can see how race, even talking to people who live in those places who are very successful, how race has a massive impact on it. With all that success,
right?
race, power, and control is in 1,000% effect to maintain control, even with the mansions. It still doesn't matter. You see what I'm saying? If you want to take it further, by the way, it still doesn't matter because we have comparisons because we have the richest counties in America.
Yeah, true. Well, we do.
Period.
Yeah, we do. No doubt. That's what I'm saying. Two things can
Yeah,
be. This is one of
not
those
the
things
richest,
where
not
two
necessarily the
things can
richest
be.
neighborhoods, but the richest, at
Yeah,
the county levels, but not
two
necessarily
things can
neighborhoods.
be
But
true at the same time when you're looking at it, and it's just like,
but you get the comparison right,
right,
real time.
yeah,
So I can go to Fairfax County. I can go real time and say, well, I
right,
know people from all these areas. I know how everybody's talking. I know how everyone looks at every other neighborhood. I look at every
Right.
other county. Is you know what I'm saying? And how everybody
Right.
talks about it: the black folks, the white folks, the Asians, the
Yeah, yeah,
Indians,
yeah.
the Africans, the
Yeah.
Caribbeans, the
Yeah.
Latinos. We know how I talk to everybody. We know how everybody talks
Yeah.
about all the neighborhoods and all the counties. And where it is, where I'm not gonna say too much. Why would I say too? I'm not gonna say too much about it.
Right.
I'm not going all the way into that. It's not people's business, in my opinion,
I just it's just
for me to put out there like that. I don't even want nobody to know
little
about Prince
thing.
George's County. To be honest with you, I prefer it to be unknown. We talk too much. To be honest with you,
Yeah,
black
no
people in
doubt.
general talk too much. Need to
No
be quiet
doubt.
more. Need to be quiet more.
Yeah, to listen more. I think that but I think that there's also transparency can be done in a way to where it's not, I guess, overexposure, not unless, someone would dig that deep. But I I
Well, in a
guess
lot of ways,
my
they say that most poor people stay poor in America. So you got to be careful talking about a lot of things just because
right.
there is no. I mean, I get like I said, I've looked at some information. I don't know, maybe it's right or wrong, but I'm not totally sure. Maybe outside of maybe being an immigrant and being certain people in this country, there is no ladder to get up into the middle class or the upper middle class like that. Like it probably should be or was at one time. You know, so it's tricky. I think a lot of things are kind of tricky these days because of how America got set up. With the rail, with the rail systems and how towns and cities got created because of manufacturing, because of farming. And since that's been outsourced, you can probably close. I would argue you can close down maybe 35 states in America and make it turn America from
Well,
50 states to like maybe 12.
what I would say
And
is
sort
that
of pull all the energy into bigger states and sort of start to shut some of it down because like I said,
yeah,
that's why talking about some of the stuff don't mean a lot. I mean, the DMV defeats out the federal government, so it's not even really that real in a lot of ways. So that's a
yeah,
whole other
that and
conversation.
that's part of it. And
Yeah.
another thing that I wanted to kind of really
Well, I don't want to demystify that. I like the reputation.
I'm about to do it in just a second. Here's a point that I want to say, because
We don't make nothing, baby. It's all
25 we
fake.
go
We don't make
25
nothing.
to
We don't
30
produce
years
nothing.
ago, right, when we was teenagers, right? So I'm thinking
Yeah,
about the 90s in particular. so
yeah.
so if you're going back to that generation and some of the kids that you grew up with, you have seen people from two-parent homes, nice areas in
Yeah.
PG County, nice houses, that took a step back. They're not like their parents. They're different, and they're in the hood, or they're not a level up. They didn't do the things that you would think that they would actually do. Like it didn't translate to the last generation. They slid down instead of sliding up. So you know how you see people that's from, say, Bethesda, right? That's a generational thing where everything is in the pocket. So what's the dude that's on Hot 97? The Greenberg was,
Rosenberg,
Rosenberg is from Bethesda, Maryland. So
Chevy
he
Chase, baby.
Chevy Chase area,
No
like people that's in the
powerhouse.
know, Moco County, most of those people, it's a very enclosed community. Go
Elite.
to the same, yeah, go to the same schools. The money is just it's just a byproduct of what they do and the access. So I say it's more access more so than it is the money side of it, because they can always find ways of generating income, even if you get like a slacker, like what I would consider him to be. He even says it. He's like a slacker, not very into the school thing, but
He's
just
not. He's not.
kind of
He's not.
going.
He's really not ambitious in that way.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah.
if you put him in a different kind of context where you have to keep that same kind of drive, that intuitiveness, say like if your parents are like working for the government or working for DOD, making great six figures, they got a big house in Bowie, right? And they, you living good, but you just still, you're falling off and you're on a sliding scale, and it doesn't manifest with you, and you get in trouble or whatever you do, and you make bad decisions. Now that income is not enough to carry you to the next generation. So whatever it is, the daughter or the son, and we have seen it. I've seen it myself. I've actually seen people fall from the middle, like upper middle class, all the way down to just District Heights.
Well,
You know what I'm talking about?
I
Yeah.
don't think that's not really. I don't think that's really unique. I think the American system produces that all day, every day, though,
I don't see.
across the board.
I'm gonna tell you.
That's why you have 70 million poor white people,
No,
probably.
but we talked about that before.
Maybe
The next
half of them were probably upper class, middle class, had resources, and then by the time they got to the fourth and fifth generation, they either bankrupted, destroyed it all,
okay,
drank it all, made
okay,
bad bets. Because America, you got to be honest about the place you live in. So I mean, in this country, you make bets, and a lot of people lose for a few people to win, and no one is protected from that. It can happen to anybody. I mean, I'm watching it happen to millionaires and billionaires getting zeroed out all the time. The difference now than it was back then, specifically for white people in America, is that it seems that currently speaking, to my knowledge, I could be wrong. If you're in a certain class now, you can't get out that class. I'm talking about the high levels. It seems like you can be broke and still somehow function, and it's some kind of weird. They done put in some kind of base that can't be cracked, and
right.
you can't drop below. But I'm talking about upper class people though.
Yeah, I think
And
there's
I would use Trump as an example for that. By the way, I don't even know if he has any money, to be honest, which I'm completely confused by it.
well,
But somehow he can just live, and it's just
what
unusual
does
to
he
me.
generate though?
I
What does
have no idea. I know. I mean,
yeah,
I understand some of his business stuff, but I'm just making a point. Like I don't know
right.
how that works with the real estate stuff. So it's just funny. And he ain't the only one. I mean, a lot of guys lose all their money, but somehow can still live. It doesn't make any sense. I want to see a guy to come on the internet and say, "I used to be a billionaire." Because 50 years ago, you probably could get that if you had the internet and people were, because you wasn't necessarily being protected that we know of. Maybe some people, of course, but maybe you had a lot more millionaires and former millionaires to sort of fall. So take Anderson Cooper as an example. He's a Vanderbilt, and he does a TV show, whatever that means, whatever, and maybe that's still some kind of favoritism, but he ain't a Vanderbilt. You understand what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
he
all I'm
working
saying is
every day.
the track. Yeah, I'm saying the track to access is what I'm saying. Like more so than the money. The money piece, I think you're right. Like if you get money
But you
and it's
got
sort
people
of
who
like
are who
it's
are
job related or
Lincoln's family
fleeting, it's very
are
hard to
not
kind of, you
are
know,
not safe, are they?
which one?
Lincoln has his relatives still exist. Lincoln, a lot of the presidents,
Oh, okay, okay.
they got relatives, but they're average people.
Yeah. But I mean, there's a difference between the sliding scale of being average and then falling into the extreme poor
If my
category.
great great grandfather, as a white person, was Lincoln was I'm a great grandson of Lincoln. I should have access. Favoritism, something. Give me a company or something. But that doesn't necessarily happen like that.
Yeah, it doesn't track that way.
Not I'm
I
talking
get
about
what you're
back
saying.
then. It's changed now. Now that's not true no more. I don't think Hillary's family can go below a certain level. The
Right.
Clintons at this point, or the Gates family, unless they choose to do it.
Yeah, it will
You
become
got some
extremely
group.
hard to
Yeah,
kind of like, because you will always have access to income or generating
you don't
sources
got
of
to build anything
income.
anymore. That's my whole
Right,
point
that's what I'm
when I
saying,
say
because
that.
it's
You
just
can.
like
It's
made out
all
of.
nonsense
You
now.
could just
Yeah,
create a podcast the next day, and off name
yeah.
recognition
And
alone,
someone to just give you the
yeah, it's
$100 million
going to
and
generate
just
an
boom.
income. Yeah, so it's going to
Yeah.
generate revenue for yourself.
There's
Is
so
what I'm
much money,
saying. Like
so
your
much paper
name,
money flowing
yourself,
around. Yeah.
and that's what I'm talking
You
about.
don't
Like
even got to do that. They just have you open a boutique and just give you $50 million or
right,
something.
or
They just move
producing
money around all kind of ways.
a show, sitting
Yeah, a
in,
TV
giving you
show. Yeah,
ideas about,
yeah,
yeah. So it's like,
yeah.
that's what I mean. It's like what I'm trying to say is the tentacles of streams of income. See, money to me is almost like it's a stream. It's an algorithm. So if you can figure out the algorithm on how to attain it, then that's how you crack the code on it. Like you will always, like somebody just says, well, I can be out of money, I can go bankrupt tomorrow, but
Yep,
then you give me a month and
yep,
I'm back on it. You know what I mean?
yep.
That's what I mean, because they have access to people that are giving them opportunities, giving them access. Because without that, you would stay broke. That's what we're talking about. So if you get somebody that's falling in and out of those kind of environments, it breaks you into not having a sustainable amount of income to kind of keep that going. And that's what I saw with the so-called uber elite black people that we're talking about, which is our parents and their friends and things of that nature, that worked in government, worked in these different things. and their children may have fallen off because those so-called connections, they're there. Don't get me wrong, those connections are there because you can still get those opportunities. But somebody said, hey, I'm not going to do that. I want to do this other thing. They may not have connections that's going to stream out to those other venues. Say like a Rosenberg, he got into radio, right?
Yeah.
Rosenberg is his name. So
Yeah.
his pops or whatever could have knew somebody, because I don't think his pops is into radio, or if maybe he is, but he
No.
could have did something. And then hey, I'm gonna give you opportunity over there because I know so and so, because they can actually get there, and then you can go there and because you're my son, sit in and do whatever from that
He's
standpoint.
also a part of the Jewish community, so I mean, the
That's what I'm
connections are
saying.
technically
Yeah,
already built
that
in
goes
because of how they
back.
operate as a group.
So we're talking about that, and then
So,
like to expand the definition. I don't want to get away from manhood because I think that manhood in itself is a group phenomenon. Like your expressed manhood is a part of a so-called group. Like a man or a person standing alone doesn't really manifest in itself as far as saying manhood. Manhood is a group of individuals. We're going forward 300. If it's 300 to 3,000, 30,000, whatever the case may be, we on this. You know what I mean? If it's a football team, we're a group of men. We got one drive. We're trying to do this, no matter the personalities. And that's what I'm
but
saying.
but stay right there. I'm gonna ask you this question:
I
Who
hope you
that?
understood what I was saying, though. How kind
I
of
heard
like,
what you said. That
yeah,
football team. And I heard what you said. That football team. I just wanted to cut you right there. That football team.
yeah,
You
yeah,
just said what you just said, right?
yeah.
Who determines that they're men in that moment with the helmet on?
Okay, so I could take this two different ways, but I would say that
Because
they,
they're gonna say that in the locker room. What you just said.
yeah, they determine it internally that they're men. But
Right.
at the end of the day, without them
And
being
what do
able to,
Jerry Jones consider them?
but that's what I was just about. Hold on, I was just about to get to. I was just about to get to the so-called de facto person sitting up in the bleachers or sitting up at top, watching at the top of the Coliseum, watching his millions and what he deemed as available. Because without the platform and without people knowing that you're doing these demonstrations of so-called manhood, then it doesn't technically mean anything. Whether you talking about
What does he
in the hold
consider
on,
them? Is what I'm asking
but
you.
that's what I'm saying. No
It's,
matter
it,
whether you're talking about military, police officers, whatever the case may be, right? The
yeah.
group is basically labeled by what is representing them above them,
Right.
what's supporting them above.
Right.
What do he consider them?
Yeah.
I mean,
His children. I help
children,
you out. I help you out.
kids, my
My
underlings,
boys.
right?
Come on, bro.
It's a good old boy. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is.
You're
True.
not really asking me nothing because I'm trying to say I don't know because it feels good to go with it. It feels good to go with the narrative, but my mind just don't move. It just don't work. It just don't work. I just can't. I can't. It just can't not. You can't unsee things.
Maybe, that's what I'm
And
saying.
so like you said,
Maybe it's that.
conceptually, the controller group of males, conceptually, you want to make them from boys to men to get what you want from them. But I wouldn't even consider Jerry Jones a man, but that true human being who has power
Right.
looks at those people as his children. The same as the emperor of Rome looked at his warriors maybe as not
Right.
necessarily warriors per se. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Because
Right.
of the power dynamic. So that word is used to get things from you, to
And that's
create
what I'm
things
saying. It
that you have no
exactly.
control over.
There
So it's
you
not
go.
really nothing to talk about.
And it's
It
generating
doesn't. It doesn't really. It's
what does this generate? It generates movement. It generates
energy.
butts and
However you want to
seats.
use it.
Hold on. It generates butts and seats. It
Of
generates a
course.
whole economy that's
Right.
based off this foundation of this said person said this, called this, and you group are going to get together. You're going to put on pigskin. You're going to risk body, limb, and all these other things for glory. I'm going to pay you very well. And then, that's just what it's going to be. And you're going to be remembered for whatever this is. And that's going to
Right.
be your so-called pocket of what manhood or masculinity is. But it
To the
manifests
grave.
in these ways. And it's
Yeah.
like at the end of the day, nothing nothing basically defaults the top, because at the top he's going to have access to all of these so-called men that were basically on the field that were so-called physically better than him. But at the end of the day, when he paid him, when he cut him, when he told him you're no longer on the team, you're suspended, whatever the case may be, the control is definitely already set in place. No matter how benevolent he is or how harsh he is towards you, you're still under his particular program. And if you expand this over the country, right? We tend to try to expand this because, like I said, this would not be the same if we didn't actually take it from a code breaking perspective. And that's all I'm trying to tell people. Like, I'm not trying to tell people what you need to
Everybody
believe as
listening,
far as manhood.
you are a man. It's all good. Don't worry about it.
You so
Fucking idiots.
condescending, Joe. You so condescending.
No, I was being serious.
Joe, you, yeah, I can't even. I'm not gonna even follow that up with anything.
So check this out. Who in the so-called black community supposedly
Oh man,
expresses, this is a bad example, but sort of stereotypically expresses manhood.
well,
Rappers as an example, right?
I was going to say
So
Michael Jordan, but
we'll say like
Said, I don't like it up here. That
right,
I'm about to sell. I'm about to
right,
sell the majority.
right.
Y'all can have this shit. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like I want to live the rest of my life in total. Like what we talked about with Robert Johnson. It's the same
Yeah.
thing. Like he owned BT for what 20 to 30 years, and after a while, it's like, man, you know what? He was on a golf course. Those white people tell you, sell it, man. Make your money, live your life, because this is all familiar, familiar to us. We are generational. We are the group of the
Well,
eternal.
it's
We're here,
theirs. They built it,
but that's what I'm saying. Like we
and they were allowed to do this.
exactly,
They know who butters their bread
and it's not earned, and
because their
everything.
manhood is limited.
Right, it
It's
does
limited.
exactly, and it's
It
not
can be
always
taken
earned.
from them in America, and at least in America, it can be
Exactly,
taken. If you're a
exactly.
Saudi prince outside of your father killing you, you pretty much untouchable unless you get bombed by America, of course. Because the Saudis think that they're men, but who provides them protection? Do they protect themselves? No, we do.
I I see. I
We
see.
protect them, their oil, and all their trillions.
I'm curious if you feel like opening up the lines just for like a good 30 minutes or so, and then have like some people come up, and this is all I ask though for people that's coming up though. You have to answer the question as I labeled it. What is manhood to you? And after that, what is black manhood? And then we can move on from there. I think we have probably confused the
I
we
confuse
confuse the
myself.
masses enough. If we confuse it ourselves, we confuse the masses enough. Because like I said, like I think people get
We
confused
just
about what
shooting.
we're
We just
talking
shooting
about. But
crap.
yeah,
We just
we
talking.
talk or whatever. But yeah,
Yeah.
we shooting shots in the gym. But getting back on the
I'm
black
just
topic, man.
having fun.
Yeah, a little bit, But
I
yeah,
mean, I am anyway.
you could drop the link, man, and anybody that want to come up and chop it up and answer those questions. I like to hear it. I think that it would be very interesting to hear a viewpoint on it that
I gotta remember how to
may
do
be
that. Give me a second.
uh,
Let's
interesting.
see. Let's see. Yeah, it's pretty fun. I was gonna say about I always think about rappers, not really any entertainer, male or female, that they have to like guess. There we go. They have to you know how they get called to a bar mitzvah. I always found it interesting when I found out about it. You know how they get called to like a bar mitzvah.
Yeah,
Now you're getting paid obscene amounts of money, and I know that that covers the whole thing up, right? You're a man, but somebody's
I
calling
was
you to
about
go
to
sing
say,
at
yeah, that
sing at
is,
their 15-year-old white Jewish kids, and they're all, you know what I'm saying?
nothing is ever
And they
manly.
treat you sort of like a
You
caged
seen
animal on
you
some level,
seen
but
bar
the
mitzvahs
money sort of
before, right?
offsets that, I guess.
You've been around bar. I've been around bar mitzvahs myself, and nothing seems very masculine about that whole ritual. But it's very interesting that it is
Oh
displaying.
they're rich.
Yeah, it's a very if anybody that's been
Yeah,
around it, that's around
they're
ritual.
not really men's men from a physical perspective, though. They're not from gladiators or Vikings.
It's interesting. That's
You
all I got
could
to
put
say.
it
I
like you
mean,
couldn't use Jews to fight a
I
war. They will finance the war for you, but you can't use them to fight no war. You're gonna lose.
you
you know,
you call
you better go find you some Nigerians or some
like
Vikings,
I
some people
am
from
not
up in Northern Europe or somewhere,
right.
or some
Some
Vietnamese are tough too,
boys
or some
and
Vietnamese people, or some
yeah.
Afghanis for sure. I think if I had to
Oh
rank it, I might
man.
take Afghanis. I may take Afghanis over a lot of even ancient I mean, when you put it in context, I would say 2,000 years from now or 3,000 years from now, they may consider the Taliban like the 300, like the greatest warriors ever because they beat Russia and they beat America, the two
Mm.
greatest empires that the world has ever seen. Isn't that strange though? But it won't be written yet. But in the future, it could be. You just never know who has the pen.
Yeah, we're not gonna be around for that, but yeah, that would be interesting to
I mean,
see
think
how
about it. If I'm the
see history.
Taliban and
No,
I
you're
beat
right.
out America, I'm taking that. I'm taking that as a
You gonna
W.
take that dub. You gonna take that
Taking
dub.
that.
Vietnam too. You gonna
Uh,
take that W.
do
I'm
you
yeah,
think the
we still up.
300 really did what they did? Come on, stop it. Stop it, Europe, and your storytelling. It sounds good.
Oh man, that's so funny, man. Cause
No, I'm just talking. I don't know what I'm talking about.
oh, don't do it,
What
man.
I mean, I put the thing in there, but nobody's coming up. So, oh well.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I think that it's always interesting that when you get to talking about
Well, that's true. They did
manhood
get a lot of help. I know. I'm just talking.
and what manhood is, it's just it causes this confluence of ideas and ideologies that kind of converge and no, I know what manhood is. No, you know what manhood, and it's just like these competing ideas and ideologies that like I
Yeah,
know what a
I
real man is. You don't know what a man is. It's just like pointed. You know how you see like the Spider-Man pointing at each other like you don't know what a man is. I know what a man is. You're not the man. I'm the
mm,
man. Who the man? Remember the movie Who's the Man? Like who the man? I'm the man. You the man. I'm the man.
no.
I'm the true man. I'm King. You King? No, I'm King. I'm King the Conqueror. So, anyways, we got BMT and BGS up here. So whoever wants to take the two questions first, you have to answer it. Uh,
Okay, give me the first.
so
Give me the first question.
no interruption. Go ahead.
I says, give me the first question.
What is manhood?
What is manhood? Manhood is simply uh, uh, a male that grows up in how he adapts and integrates into his environment. So it's different depending on the environment that you're in. So as far as manhood, how do you oppose and how do you integrate and how do you adapt to your environment? So whether you're in the woods or in the rainforest, in the Arctic, how do you adapt to your environment to survive? That's manhood. And how do you allow your group you're with to survive? Because I agree with Cerulean, right? Men are built to oppose the environment, right? To protect and oppose the environment. Actually, go out there and figure out how to integrate and adapt and bring back the goodies to the troop. That's basically what manhood is in a general sense, if that makes sense.
So first is the physical manifestation of
Yeah,
physical
has to
being
be.
with the genitals. Okay,
Yeah,
boom. Physically, boy,
you're male,
male.
male.
Okay,
Yes, right.
these are how the males are in this particular group. So you're gonna do these particular things
Yes,
until it gets to the point where we deem you by being proficient in so-called manhood with loose terms as
in
being a
loose terms.
man.
Yeah,
Right.
because they have to
In this
send you out.
environment.
Yeah, they have to send you out into an environment, right? You have to survive, and the rites of passage or manhood is proving that you can go out there and survive in those conditions.
All
Okay,
right.
that's what
So
normally
what is black manhood?
black black manhood as we talk about ADOS, right? ADOS black man, right?
I just
Yeah,
go
that
with
works.
it.
That works for me.
Just
Well,
go with
He
no,
can.
it.
because
I
because
take
I
that.
don't want
No,
I
to
no,
take
go
that.
no,
all the
I
way
no,
take
out.
no.
that
Hold on,
caveat.
hold on, hold on,
No,
hold on,
that's why
hold on,
I just want to
hold
make
on,
sure
hold on.
because it's
Black,
different depending on where you
as
are.
far as I understand it,
Mhm.
black don't just mean ADOS. Now, I didn't say ADOS.
Well,
But
now
you
now we
see,
now we get into
and that
nuance.
was lost earlier. But
Hmm.
I did that for a particular reason.
Okay.
But now that we're getting down to it,
Hmm.
you can
Can
put
I
that
say my
caveat.
joke first? Can I say my joke first?
Go ahead, please do.
So what's so I wonder what the manhood is between the San Francisco man and the West Virginia man. But anyway, it's not that
Okay.
funny. It's not that funny, but
It's
whatever.
not as far apart as you think.
I knew that was
Oh
going to be one
man.
of your
Hey,
answers, by the way.
one does it in the light
Oh,
of day, and one
funny,
does it
man.
in the woods at night. But that's
I
that's
love that
Oh
all
answer.
right.
man.
Yeah, okay. But
All right, so
but
go
that's
go
that's
go
why we
ahead
have to
from
we
your
have to define it because Ado's culture is different from say African culture for
Exactly.
Brazilian culture. So I
Okay, so go
so
ahead.
you have to narrow it down for me. Okay,
So we're going
but
slash. No, you're going slash ADOS because that's what we know and familiar with.
that's
So
we know
go ahead.
because we talk about general black manhood is then the first definition is the same depending on the environment that you're in. But if you talk about ADOS Black American malehood, ADOS Black American is defined by how we show up for our women and children.
I'm playing. Okay. Paradox. Do you want to say anything about that? Is that how you define it?
That's how it's been defined as in general. Okay, that that's what I've been noticing talking to the being in the conscious community for many years, being in schools, mixed schools, and then being in and then talking to the over the past 5 6 years talking to PhDs how it is in the academy. Okay, and this is the way it's defined throughout the whole culture all the way down. So. Um,
What was the answer? I missed it. My bad.
okay, in
You
the
threw me
ADOS
off, DC. You said something. You threw me off.
okay. Okay. In the ADOS black community, right? Manhood is how you show up for your women and children. That's how it's defined. If you're a good
Oh,
man, if you Pookie and Ray, in other, if you're a real man, you know, is
well, I'm Pookie and DC's Ray Ray. So
okay. I ain't gonna touch that with a 10-foot pole. What I'm saying is in all these circles, even by men and women. Okay, how it's defined and how it's been defined is how you show up for your women and children.
hmm.
Pookie and Ray Ray. I never thought of it. Those were two separate individuals.
There are two separate individuals. Ray Ray's the boss. Okay, and
Pookie and Ray
yeah.
Ray.
Pookie's a follower. Ray Ray's the boss. That's why
I
they're two
don't know
different
about
people.
that, BGS, but
Yeah.
I like that you answered it though. Like I
Okay.
said, we before we go off, I want to hear people's definition because I think that's very important because we have a very unique perspective because of the location that we're in, how we was raised. It's
Mhm.
very different. You know what I'm saying? And when I hear people talk about it, I can get into that a little bit later if we stay on, but I that's cool. I think that I understand where you're coming from and everything, and I can understand where that comes from. BMT, what about you and your unique perspective from a Geechee paradigm, within ADOS, because that's a subgroup within a subgroup, by the way. So if you want to take it there, if you want to do ADOS and then Geechee, I would like to hear it. Or if you want to do, general black manhood, I would like to hear it. But from your perspective, what is manhood? Just generally, if you have a definition for it, and then go into the second
No, it,
part.
it is. It is because we talk about this as in the government as soldiers as well as in the office halls. So okay, so your manhood is no more than it's a transitional physiology of a male to the adaptation of peers, politics, and positioning. That is manhood. That is how it's viewed, and that is how it is diagnosed amongst men and children and politics and the peers. So, but then if you also, and that's how we perceived it. That's how it's actually deemed. Whether you're part of a village or not part of a village, you're going to go through a transition. It's going to be something of how you ideally look at the world, and you're going to have a different metamorphosis. That's why they even spoke about in that Babylonian and different other times. It's always that of when I was in the world and I saw it as a child, but then when I became a man, the transitioning of how you view the world, it has a different change. And you can always see that no matter what culture, that there's going to be a transition of how the adaptation of the person, how they view their peers, the politics, and their adaptation to that of their environment. Whether it be a hostile or whether it be a subservient environment, there's going to be some type of transitioning for that male I'm talking about. Okay. But if you're talking about that for in my aspect of being a Geechee, and that was something very interesting because a lot of the boys, we did get separated different times. We did get separated, not because we uh, wanted to be separated, but we were pulled away from. I didn't see my mom. I didn't see my mom and my family for like probably like at least a few months. I didn't
Mhm.
see them, so and I didn't like it. It was definitely different, but I understood that of the methodology of after a while of And that more so that manhood treatment, um, that manhood treatment was that of learning how to protect, provide, and preside. In other words, we needed to learn how to. Those are the three P's of power that we had to that was drilled into us by older black men. Whether it was chastised, beat into us, whether it was taught into us, or whether it was those spoken into us. If you was older one, you got food. You needed to preside over the other ones, providing. You needed to provide that of order in the midst of chaos, and you needed to protect. Now, protecting is not always based on that of family. Protecting is that of your identity. Protecting is that of your beliefs, your environment. Everybody. That's why you see men act the way they do because of how they protect that of what they believe in. If a man can't protect his beliefs, what do you have to stand on? So those type of things that also, even as a black man, when they hand us over to the AME churches and stuff, I know I was in the low country of South Carolina. That's another Geechee nation. Um, we were sent back amongst other black boys, other black men and children. And as the adaptation there, we saw that the presiding of a man um, was definitely different. So the manhood adaptation for black men was different because of how old men talk about manhood and how the younger men talk about manhood are two drastically different manhood physiology adaptations. It is because of that of their environment of how they metamorphosely change. A man needs to feel wanted and needed and have some type of residual effect. Um, if he doesn't, then that takes away that of his effect. That's why you hear a lot of men feel the need to, well, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to do? You know what I'm saying? If a car doesn't get cranked up, right? You're supposed to crank up a car. Even if you're not driving a car, you're supposed to crank it up. You're supposed to check the tires. If you don't crank up the car and check the tires, guess what happens to the engine? It kills over, it dies because it's not being used. So that's what happens to a lot of young men that are not feeling that want to need to do something that are not being used adequately. Adequately, you let the tires sit there so they're not moving. What happens to the tires? The tires rot. They fall apart. So watching that for the Afro male, the Afro black male, or the Negroid, that's a different thing because the Negroid was always used, whether using that of their environment or being used by that of his environment. There was always some time in the history period that the Negroid was always being used. When we came here, we were used as tools. We were the first mechanized bred tools to terraform that of the country. And whether we were adaptively embraced or non-embraced, we've always been trying to prove that point, not just to that of our women and children. We don't think that that's too small. We were trying to prove that to the world. Look at some of our greatest achievement. We were trying to prove that to the world that listen, I'm not just any old Negro. I'm that Negro. I'm that person that changed health, science, physiology of how they view sports, anything and everything. That's why they say anything and anything that the black man touch, he takes it to another level. Takes it to another level. They couldn't terraform the environment unless they grab the Negro. But the Negro's body and physiology, and I've been around the world from Afghanistan to the Asias to the South. There's always a Negro somewhere present in those areas. That's not by coincidence. So the manhood transitioning of being used in all different environments has proven that we can have adaptation. But now how we were used, that's a difference. Now what's going on with that of the manhood for that of Black America, and we'll use Black America. You're seeing that a lot of black men don't feel a need to want to move or do anything. So seeing those young black boys, how was back in the day, okay, so we'll go to 80s on back. They were still transitioning, trying to, it ain't what it is, but we're gonna have to try to work. Men before then, they understood, regardless of that of the environment, whether they were included into the environment or not, we're needed. Fast forward to today, which I'm an 80s baby on up. After welfare came in, my masculinity was that of doped up, substituted by that of a systematic masculinity. So then there was a class placement. Either you are the have or have nots. So talking with some men, well, you're not from the hood, so you're not built like me. Hold up, bro. What the hell you mean by that? That's why you have the Carlton. That's why you have the Carlton. Mind you, I'll give you an easier understanding. The Carltons, remember when the Carlton had to talk to the frat brother? And he said, "You ain't like us." He said, "Hold on, bro. I'm just like y'all. I'm just from a different, side of the field." No, bro. He said, "I'm getting kicked around just like you. We don't need you here in this organization." So hold on, you don't need so the masculinity, the manhood of Carlton got challenged. They wanted the Wills, but they didn't want the Carltons. So now the manhood of that type of manhood is not wanted. But Will always try to catch up to Carlton in academia. Carlton tried to catch up to Will in that of the pursuit of female and environmental pressures, because everybody wanted the Will, but people didn't appreciate the Carltons. But then Will wanted to be appreciated in that of the office and school and that of the systematic, era. Oh, damn, Carlton, you get accepted by all these schools, but I'm not accepted. Well, you get accepted by all the women and all the environment. Everybody loves you. You're the party animal. So now the now masculine has been broken down. That's why I said that of peers and politics. Peers and politics. So the masculinity for the black man had got separated. We don't know how to properly, these days, a lot of younger men and some older men don't know how to properly integrate both of them as one. I can't be the cool guy and also be the smart guy. Why can't you be both? You can do that. We can be both of them. Nah. That's a Pookie. I am a Claudius. No, bro. Claudius can go have fun.
All right. So yeah. So I think that kind of covered it a little bit of a nuanced view between two different, I would say, two different but similar definition of pretty much of the same question. And I think that my idea of it still comes back to the general beginning of where me and Paradox, we always kind of skip to the end. It's just like the way our minds, I think we work in more of a macro kind of design. And I think that has a lot to do with the location that we're in. Like I think that has a lot to do with it. I see that now. Like it's a very unique thing because we see the nation as a whole more so than just individual groups, because the power center is here. But I think that what you guys said was very interesting. I would ask this question. Do you think that manhood, since we're speaking about groups, because do you guys agree that manhood is a particular term labeled to groups of individuals in the same groupings, that manhood is manifested that way? It's not really a individual pursuit? Or do you think it's an individual pursuit manifested within the group itself?
It's a group pursuit. It's a group label. Yeah.
So manhood is a group dynamic. Okay. So
It's
with that dynamic, being so with that being the platform that I want to work off of, so we're dealing with manhood groups. So do we believe that manhood can be suppressed by other groups? So another group of manhood can be basically creating the definition and suppress the other groups and dynamics and things of that nature?
It can by just the four phases of power, especially persuasion, right? How do you change somebody's worldview and how you see yourself, right? As far as how do you see yourself as feminine, as we try to put it on women, and masculine or masculine basically is manhood, right? What does that look like? How does it show up? What are the markers of it? And what are its pursuits? So the thing is, that's defined by the group. That's defined by the society.
Okay.
Because it's completely different in Korea than it is in the United States.
Okay. What about your viewpoint on the BMT? Do you think that manhood is a group phenomenon or more individual and then into the group itself?
I had to break off from the group to go find my manhood. I'm just being honest. Because what I was told that makes a man, that shit, it wasn't bumping, it wasn't banging. I was told I had to have game. I was told I had to have this. I was told I got to have the ladies and all the other jiving shit. And I was like, well, damn, where's that gotten you? Where that got you, daddy? Where that got you, uncle? Where that got you, barbershop man? I'm not feeling that. And so I just went off on my own. I'm saying no. I respect y'all older cats. I do, but I'm also like that. I had to break a lot of men now. This is that's what I'm saying. Like, and we have this why we have this war against brothers now because a lot of us now are breaking off like that manhood thing that y'all that was told to y'all. So a lot of black men now don't want to follow holistically. We want to try it, but we're saying it didn't do nothing for. We ain't seen what it did for the community. So that's
All
why
right,
we're saying now we don't want it.
let me slow you down right there. So when you say
My
y'all,
bad.
what do you mean exactly? Y'all, who is y'all?
Well, okay, so the majority of what is portrayed to told to that of a black man that you got to dress a certain type of way, you got to have a certain type of swag, you got to have a certain type of presiding over the women in the community. A lot of the
Mm-hmm.
younger men are divesting from that
Mm-hmm.
mythology of that type
The,
of
the,
manhood.
the ADOS black masculine trope, which is how you show up for your women.
Right, right. So, okay, so and I'm just making sure I'm being respectful about it. But that's just what's happening. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
black men are saying, "I'm not doing that. Hell no, we won't go." So
So
then, so
and what's causing that
well,
admixture? That's
well,
what's causing it.
it is a lot. It is a lot, and I'm just speaking from that of my
Mm-hmm.
resident.
And be as disrespectful as possible if you want to.
Stop it,
What
stop.
I'm trying to get, what I'm
I'm
trying
being
to get
no man.
is
I'm
you.
trying to be. I'm trying to be respectful, as hell,
I,
man. Like y'all
what,
are trying, man. Like y'all trying to hell, man.
what I'm asking you, BMP, you didn't go out into the middle of the woods for on a sabbatical for like 3 years to find your
Oh,
manhood. Where'd you go find your manhood?
oh man.
Where'd you go
I,
to
I,
find your manhood?
I went out to the world. I just left.
Uh,
I just left.
Come on
The
now, be
military.
more precise
Yeah.
with that.
Okay.
Where'd you go?
Okay. That's fair. I went to the military. Yes, I did go to the military.
Okay, which is
All
I
what
right.
it,
went. I went.
which is Moynihan, which is what Moynihan said back in 1965, right? An all male group, a traditional all male group, which is based on a European idea, goes all the way back to the Greeks. Okay, and so basically
Right.
that's where you went outside your own ADOS group into a general
Right.
Western group to find
Into
your
another
manhood
group.
into
Right.
another group. So it's not
And you
individual.
you're coming back to the group because you will always be represented as far as that group dynamic is concerned.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
the
That's what
But
I'm trying to get
that's
at.
okay.
the inadvertent part of it. But
Yeah.
most people that's in
You
your
don't
group
want
don't
to come back
align.
to this group. This group is
So, so,
terrible.
so
But okay. But I'm asking.
hold
I'm
on,
asking this.
hold on, something, BT, hold on.
My
In
bad.
a roundabout
My-
way, you basically confirmed just what I just said. When in a few
oh,
sentences, okay? You
okay.
basically confirmed
So
what I
let me.
said.
So answer me this.
Okay.
But if the group, I'm just saying this,
Uh huh.
and answer me this.
Hmm.
Do you think a good majority? I'm saying majority. I'm talking to my granddad. Do you think
Uh
a
huh.
good majority of black masculinity has been sought after for that of the validation of the white man in black women rather than themselves?
Mm, I no. Okay. In my opinion, okay. If I can take maybe like 3 minutes, if that's okay. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. In other words, basically, black masculinity, as we define it in the ADOS community, is an adaptation to survive, right? Like my partner calls a black family a survival unit. Okay.
Hmm.
We adapted a lot of mores, a lot of different ways of doing things that are probably counter to a lot of what we call traditional masculine cultures to survive in this environment. Through slavery and Jim Crow, we had to do it. Diane Stewart, a whole bunch of other people say the exact same thing about our adaptation. So that those adaptations are still within our group. So basically, um, um, the black masculinity is in service to that. That's how it is adapted because black women run the community. They just do. Okay. And the way we have been socialized to be masculine inside that community is to service the women, whether it's the swag, whether it's pleasing women, whether it's taking care of women and children, whether it's being a stepfather. There's a whole list of things, right? That we can go right down the list about how we show up and how our masculinity, quote unquote, is defined within the ADOS community. When you go outside of that, your masculinity is defined differently. It might be toward nation, it might be toward building things, it might be toward doing something else, right? And women are not. It's not defined by women. It's actually defined by men, which is why Moynihan said you had to get black males into an all masculine environment where masculinity is defined by males, because inside the ADOS community, it's defined by the females. If that makes sense. Okay, I'm done. That's my 2 minutes instead of 3.
Okay. Okay. That's why I'm looking at it like from again. I'm a crack baby era. I blew up around crack and all this stuff. I didn't see no women running the streets. I saw the niggas running the streets. I didn't see when I go into the dope house. When I go in the dope house to go pick up my little cousins, that was the zookeeper. He ran that. And if a woman got a line, she got popped in the mouth. And then after that, he said, "Hey y'all, here, take some money, go. Y'all need to see all that. Go take some money, go to the go get some cigarette candy. All right, cool. We out. Like I don't know where this what power the women do. They somewhat think they got a power from that white man, but they can't control that black boy. That's why Angela Bassett had to drop her son off with that man. You can't control that black boy. At some point, my mama figured that out. Like when I hit 13, like, hey, James, come get your boy. Come get him. I can't do nothing with this one. Like, I'm just saying, systematically, she just working with the man. She can't control no man.
Let me give you a perspective from a man who turned 21 when the crack era actually started, right? 1981.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. You got to understand where the knuckleheads came from, went out there pushing the dope. Most of this, you know how many women actually try to recruit and go out and sell dope for them? We got them, baby. We need money because we ain't got no money. We need this, we need that. And I want a car, I want this. And you're not making money fast enough. Can you go out and sell dope for me? Can you go out and do this? Knowing that I'm going to go to jail, she's going to get all the money and the house and the property, and I'm not going to have anything when I come out. You know how many dope boys took that deal because of coochie, and women got all the success, got all the property, got all the money. They came out, they came out with nothing because they were used as a resource. You know how many dope boys who had the trap house behind grandma's house? You know how many dope? How many women that the dope boys taking care of when he was out there slanging and banging on the streets? Okay, he's doing it for them, encouraged by them, and then rewarded by them, because that's how come they had 20 kids by 11, 12 baby mamas. They were sought after. Okay, they're encouraged. They're actually pushed. They actually because a lot of dope boys started selling dope not because they wanted, it was an exciting lifestyle, because the women actually rewarded them with sex and with fun and with attention. Okay,
that's a benefit, but that's a benefit to power. Right. Power. That's a form of power. Women in the environment are going to flock around that of what they see as power. Whether it be good power or bad power, power is power. And if I got the power to control that steel, drive that El Pinto, and doggone women gonna be like, oh shoot, Jerry running the block.
How come the white women didn't go for the same thing?
They did. You talking about the mafia? They had the mafia.
No,
they had the Italian gang. They had they went.
Yeah, but the women, you didn't see a whole bunch of white men flocking to the mafiosos, did you?
They had two different power structures. Hold on.
Oh, all right.
So they had the mafia, which the Italians went to, and literally they actually are now the police. So they legitimized their dirty money to now we are systematic. Now guess what? Now you started to become firefighters, police officers. They started getting into the system. Black men can't do that. Black men said, well, let's go take this dope money and turn it into something where we have a welfare system. Oh, no. Oh, right. The white man took those men, threw them in incarceration, and then patented it and said, guess what? We got y'all. We'll take care of y'all. So you couldn't never clean up your money. You couldn't clean it up. They weren't going to allow you to.
Go ahead. And even when they switched the I'm going to be respectful because I'm not on my own platform. The dope game from the black folks to the Latinos, or the Latinos run the dope game right now, right? Okay.
Right, they're in it now.
Even there, you don't see high class Latinos or even low class Latinos flocking to dope boys. Okay, in the same way, you don't.
I would
You don't see the same thing. You don't see the same
from
dynamic. And this is from a
well, they
perspective
don't have to touch it.
from a perspective of somebody that came up in it. Okay, came up in it, saw it saw it grow up from the ground, saw what the women did, not what they say they did, but what they actually did. Okay, women kept their hands clean, but guess what they did? I can't tell you how many ex dope boys, baby mamas I dated in my 20s. Can't tell you. There's just flocks of them. Okay, that's just flocks of them. And
Okay.
what changed the community was not the men selling dope, because men were selling heroin and dope and all that kind of stuff in the 70s. What changed it was a big hoard of money, and the women got swayed by the money. I'm talking about from the high class chicks that didn't need the money, came from rich families, all the way down to low class chicks. Okay, the lifestyle and dope, and how those men showed up, and how excited with the shiny belt buckles that they got attracted to, and they all went for it. And change and that got translated into the rap game later on. Gangster rap came out of the dope game, okay? Not vice versa. So that's where it started, you know.
Well, I can respectfully just respect your opinion. I can
Okay.
respect your opinion.
Okay.
And like I said, it's just that, like I said, like my dad, like I said, I rode with my dad in that truck. And I remember when I first saw his Glock and I mean, that nine in his goddamn thing. And he said, "Hey, sometimes we got to protect ourselves, son." I ain't never questioned. I said, "Well, shit, are we still going to the store to get popsicles? Yeah, we gonna go." But understand, he had to do a lot of things. And that's mind you, he came from Vietnam, so there was no holistic system for black men coming out of that. Like, it's trauma after trauma after trauma, and it's trying to be the righteous man didn't really get black men nothing sometimes. Versus, well, damn, I'm following the rules, but I ain't getting paid the same thing that dude did. And I don't like always going on the stick of but I understand, because now I'm like, well, damn, well, Dad, I respect what you did, but I'm gonna do it my way. I grew up a Christian, and even though I want to do evil, damn, that Christian button be clicking in sometimes. It be auto sync mode kicking in. I'm like, damn, why not I just do that shit? All right, you know what? Fuck it. We still making money. Trust me, my people side eye me back in the day. I'll carry that cross. I'll carry that blame. Like, I don't judge. I don't judge people anymore, especially on the time era. Is just different on how manhood is perceived and presided over. You know what I'm saying? Like I came up during a time where my uncles were telling me, like, "Hey, you see that broad at the church that right now she going up there praying to Jesus for a man? That's your blessing right there, son." That's my uncle telling me that. I said, "Really? You sure?" I think she's trying to find some Jesus. She's trying to get us. Boy, shut up. She got a car. She got a Mazda. She just got herself into housing, and also, bro, she got the housing vouchers. What? Guess
Uh-huh.
what? My uncle hooked me up with her. We were smooth saying. See, brother laughing, but he know it's true. We had it with the game was get them bras. They looking for a man. They looking for a protector. All right, cool. I'll be the protector, but it come at a
Uh-huh.
cost. Come at a cost. And
Uh-huh.
guess what? I got everything I wanted. Why would I complain? Why would I complain? I'm eating. I got food, house, and car. All I got to do is lay it down, and I got what I wanted. How can you tell somebody to come from that kingdom, from the have and have-nots? Well, you need to come out here and work and do X, Y, and Z. This is real masculine. No, nigga, you still at your mama house trying to get respect from the streets, nigga. I'm out here. I got the broad that you want, but all I got to do is just play the game. It's those who are good at playing the dice and rolling the dice, and some guys who just never wanted to pick up the dice and hit it on the wall. And I'm not saying I'm a good guy or a saint. That's why I went to. That's why I was more comfortable. I could tell the black boys who had a father when they went into the military, and those who did it. Those who did it. It was just one of those things. Like, damn, Johnson, you ain't afraid to shoot that damn pistol? You ain't afraid to shoot that rifle? Hell nah, bro. I hear these gunshots all the damn time on goddamn Page Street. Shit, this is normal. Pop, 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 pop. Go time. It was easy. Either a white man telling me to point the trigger or a black man telling me to point the trigger. Somebody's gonna tell me to point the trigger. So I'm gonna go ahead and just get paid for it. Same thing with masculinity. Somebody's gonna try to tell you what your masculinity is. I find that's the thing now. That's the marketing tool now, telling boys what they think they need to hear to be a man.
Right. Instead of it being some kind of organic process, it's
right.
Because the internet is so, it's the World Wide Web, so everybody is kind of on these tropes of what an idea is, and this is getting sold. So this is like the first generation where it's kind of like more of a global idea of what so-called blackness is, and then sort of like interwoven into different subcultures and how they manifest it, then different groups within that subcultures, from the poorest to the richest within that community, and they had different tenets that they deal with as far as manhood and masculinity is concerned. I would like to see Paradox. Did you have anything that you wanted to say on it? Because I know that there was some, knowing you, I know there was some things that may have triggered some of your ideas on it. Did you have anything you wanted to add to it?
Nope. It was enjoyable.
What?
Y'all got me looking real bad in front of a guest, man. I don't like this shit at all, man. Fuck y'all, man.
What? No, man, that's how we are, man.
That's a compliment coming from Paradox.
This is a codebreaker session, man. We don't, there's no judgment. There's no judgment zone here, brother.
Shit.
We don't judge here, brother. We don't. No.
Yeah.
It's a different dynamic. It's interesting, but like I said, it is what it is. For somebody that's in between the groups, you know what I'm saying? I think that I may be closer in age to UBNT than I am to BGS. But as far as his dynamic, he's going to be a grown person that's seen it from the beginning, experienced the dope era from the beginning. We in Paradox were children. You was a baby.
You're a baby.
You know what I'm saying? Right. So you wasn't conscious of it. So when we started to see moms on it, like it was
weird
levels of it. Like, when you started to see somebody's mom that you went to school with, they walking around the neighborhood doing strange things for change. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Being disrespected. You know what I mean? And this woman may have went to the church and been like a singer in the choir, and then all of a sudden she on that white horse. She broke bad. But I will say this though, there was a way of, I would call, negative masculinity within the black neighborhood that did manifest itself and become dominant during that time.
Yeah, they got money.
It's something to be looked upon because it was rewarded.
Yeah,
that behavior was rewarded by the women, which made it at that particular term okay to be that way, because in other words, I get all the bitches and all the hoes, and so what you got going on for you?
Got going on, yeah. It went from the 3-piece suit to the what do they call it?
Because even if you think about Will Smith will always be corny to me, because I remember Will Smith from the beginning of who he was. Didn't care he was from Philly. He was a corny dude. That's just in our eyes. I mean, as far as how we viewed it from a dude that's from an urban perspective. A guy like that, if he's in an urban environment, he's going to be deemed corny, whether real or not. I mean, it's bullshit. I'm not saying that it's real. It's a bullshit trope. But at that particular unique time, that's why when he went to Bel Air, it was like, well, y'all think he cool? That's why it's interesting watching it, because it's like Carlton and them thinking he's some kind of urban street dude. Really, he's the good kid out of the urban environment. He's
from the hood. He's good kid.
Right. He's the good one. He's the good kid, Mad City environment. He's the one that should have been in the arts or doing things, making the 1500 on the SAT, which is what Will Smith actually did in real life, by the way. He was supposed to be accepted into MIT. He was a heavy brainer. You know what I'm saying? Grew up in the middle of Philly.
His daddy was engineer.
Middle class, but in the middle class of Philly, his parents were educators. We got people like that in Southeast DC. It's the same thing. They grew up in the jungle, but you knew their parents, and they were churchgoers, deacons, pastors, teachers, government workers. But
call of the wild. Call it
Yeah,
a while. Yeah.
you knew these guys, and she's like, "Yo, you don't have to try to act hard in front of us. Like, we know who you are. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
I
know."
don't know. I don't know why that word "good" rubs me so wrong. The way you say it, "good,"
Well,
makes
how
my
do you
But
define
see,
it?
that,
makes
that's
my
Call it a
skin
while.
crawl. Makes my skin
yeah,
crawl.
yeah. But I like this dude. I like this dude
Uh,
Paradox. He like an older cousin to me. Like good kind of rubs me the wrong way too. Because it's a good and bad. I'm just being honest. In my perception of the world, it's very
Yeah.
it's a murky bad because to some people they say, well, that dope man is a bad person, but to us, he's a good person because he's stimulating our economy. Though it's a bad economy, but all of us here are eating. You just ain't eating. And versus that of, well, he's a good kid, right? Yeah, he's a good kid, but he's not looked at as a protector. So he's not really. I can't. I can't. I
I,
can't give my damn but a girl. And in mind, I've seen a lot of good dudes. Hell, myself sometimes. I was that guy in RTC, going to church, beating on the church drum. But I wasn't the good kid needed for that environment. So you had it where some people just listen. I don't think this is the right fit for you. This is when, and just let me know if I'm wrong. A lot of older folks, or the older ones said, "Listen, I think we might need to take you. You can go down south, or maybe we might need to take
yeah,
you west coast or somewhere else." So
they did a lot of that.
you took exactly. So you
They did a
took
lot of
them
that.
out of there. So you
Mm-hmm.
took them out of there instead of them being that thing that needs to stay there. Well, what happened to all the good men? What happened to all this and that? Well, you took them out.
They had to save them. And a lot of that's how come there's really that's how the dope spread from coast to coast, right? Because grandmothers and mothers trying to save their boys because they saw what was coming, and they tried to save them by shipping them
Right.
out of the environment and took back down to grandma, back down to auntie down south, right?
Yeah,
And
that's how you got
unfortunately,
banging in Little Rock and all that
and
kind of.
that's how unfortunately they carry the same ideals
Right.
with them
Right.
to other. In other words, instead of them saving and preserving them to actually change, they actually planted seeds all over the South.
Yeah.
Because I saw that, in real time.
So
Because
now they the
my
big
folks are
homie.
from Shreveport, you know. So when I
Okay,
came back so in mid '80s when I went back for a family reunion, man, I used to be able to
Freeport
walk up
rough.
yeah, it's Sweepo.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sweepo. So
Mhm.
basically, I came back and I could actually walk into my aunt's house right any time of the day, right? She never locked the doors, right? So I had to go over there to get something, right? And I come up and I twist the doorknob and I'm like, I keep twisting. I said, wait a minute, this door is locked. So I walked back to my grandmother's house and said, wait a minute, you guys lock your doors now? She said, yeah. He said, some of these boys came from the West Coast and back to grandma's house, and all of a sudden they started running through houses and stuff like that. So, oh boy, okay, it's here now. So the
So
whole environment's going to change.
so again, that's what I'm saying. Like Will was hard type. You know what I'm saying? And that's the one thing I look at. Like so, that's why sometimes I side eye dudes and say I was always a good kid. I was doing this and that, nigga.
Mhm.
In what environment were you the good kid? Were you the good kid in that environment? And if you could have been a dictator, would you have been the bad guy? No, no, not me. I love and respect. Okay, nigga, shut up. You stop. But if you got the power stick, you definitely swing it too. Like
They did.
that's why it's subjective. It's subjective to me. It's
We
okay to
said
be.
man,
Mhm.
it depends on the environment that you're in, right?
Right,
And
right. I agree with that. I
it
agree.
depends on who's defining. That's why I said in the ADOS community, women define what manhood is. Okay,
Well,
been
that's
struggling with that
I
for
my
decades.
my pushback to that won't be access terms. So I don't think that in a sense
Mhm.
access is what you're talking about. Like these
Yeah,
men had access to the females, which basically contributed to bad behavior. But
yeah,
if you look at the domination of men in those communities, because like I said, like it wasn't women per se, because women were getting dealt with. Like seriously, like if you me and Paradise talked about this, like
mhm,
how language protect women now. Like it used to be, I mean, literally, I would see it like dude ask a woman for a number, and she say, "Nah, I ain't giving you." Like, well, fuck. I mean, it would be just automatic. It was us like, you know, it depended on where you was at. But
okay,
I this is a very nuanced type of perspective because, like I said, everywhere is not the same. So all
mhm,
places have different cues and techniques as far as speaking to women. I have spoken to other people that are raised in so-called urban environments or whatever you want to call it, where black people stay, the hood, what the moniker that people use, the community. And during that time period, it seems to be pretty consistent that there was a group of men that kind of terrorized the so-called community. Hence the people begging for the 94 crime bill to come through and get those Negroes up out the paint, from terrorizing people, which was done on purpose, by the way, but that's a whole different thing. But we're speaking about what already took place. If you take it from that standpoint, if you viewing it from a child's perspective, you're not looking at the woman as being in charge of nothing. Now, as far as the reward system, yes, you're right. From a grown person, be like, because if you're grown and you're doing everything that you need to do, and you are working that great job at the Pentagon, and you got the you remember the pen pockets and everything, and you got the text calculator, and you try to rap to a sister that's from Landover, and you rap the ball, and you look at all corner, you got your glasses on, like, I got a great job, and they're like, nigga, get up out of here. Like, she gonna be real disrespectful to you. Like, that is a real thing, and that's what I'm saying, because it comes from the natural progression of pairing with a woman and having a family at the end of the day. What broke that process when it came down to black manhood? And the overall thing of what I was saying was that black manhood was suppressed by a group that deemed it not to be able to manifest itself in the general global society. Now it's able, and they kind of took the reins off of it a little bit to kind of generally have freedom of movement. Hence the reason why people talk about passport bros, or people moving around doing different things, as far as making their decisions on who they want to be with and who they don't want to be with, and how the black community is still trying to police these movements. But from that standpoint, now it's becoming, okay, when you look back on it, maybe that was what took place at that particular time. But during the interaction, if you a child, the dope dealer or the guy that was aggressive in the household,
they ran that shit.
It was with iron fist. They was not. Mama was not in charge, bro. Who she chose to be in charge, that was the problem. She chose. But that's what I'm saying. But that's the definition, then women run it, period. Because I could look at it from the sense of, even with white men, who white women choose is going to determine how that man is going to be, because that's why you get this kind of, this kind of back and forth culture, because now there's certain white men are not being picked. Okay, you told me I had to be this way. Now we're seeing it universally, where it's kind of spreading out from us to another group, to the so-called dominant group, and they be like, yo, you don't like us like that. You don't like the square guys. You're going to give access to that box to everybody else. You're not going to keep it sacred for me.
But as it's spreading to white men are pushing back, right? They're pushing back.
But that's what I'm saying about black men group. About the overall group. No.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. That's what I'm saying, though. Just real quick, because I want this to be important, because that's why I say that the suppression is happening from the top down. Yeah, that group can push back overall, because they got the parameters of having 9 areas of activity. Because if you're dealing with so-called Bill Gates of the world, who's the other one? The real funny-looking man that owns Tesla.
Bezos. Elon.
All these weird guys, like Facebook guy, all these weird guys that make all this money, but they're not so-called the beacons of masculinity, right? Like, these are not guys. So yeah, you're gonna have those kind of tropes where you're gonna have more avenues to get the apparatus of power to get your message out. So that's why the pushback is more viable from that group dynamic. Doesn't make it more pliable. It just means that particular group, because of the suppression that they put on another group, it spilled out into their group, and now basically their women are still making these unique choices of men, because they're making the physical choice instead of the more logical family choice. As far as
white men are not used to white women treating them that way. Okay, they're not. Okay, they really aren't, and that's how come. That's really how come you see this what they call the incels, or this great quitting, and they're not dating. White men are not used to their women treating them like that. They're not.
Yeah, if you take away the component of a woman being able to take care of herself, right? What is left? What's the only decision that's left to her to make when she's deciding and being with a man?
Well, that's true. But the thing is, what I'm saying, what I'm trying to get to, and I'm trying to make it clear, okay? White men were not socialized for their women to treat them that way. Okay, black men are
It's
socialized.
but that's what I'm
The
saying.
ground
Like
up. Yeah.
I reject that notion altogether
Okay.
because
All right.
this
Okay.
this is why though. This is why, and
Okay.
this is more of a physiological type of discussion, more
Mm-hmm.
so than it is what took place. We don't have an argument of what took place. Those are true. Yeah, they rewarded with
Mm-hmm.
bad behavior. But what I'm saying is that the pressure of men, black men, having to still be protectors and providers in the household broke the family unit in a way where the kids that grew up in that environment, like the younger than you, BGS, and that was like, say, like my older brother's age, right? 10
Mm-hmm.
years older than me in Paradox, that came up under you guys, they're like, would be like your nephew that's close in age to you. That unique group that's in their 50s now, their mid 50s, that's the older Gen X
Yes,
crowd.
my
They
brother.
were
Yeah.
like, they were like, fuck that. I'm not doing that. I'm not working at the mechanic shop and going to get that kind of treatment from that woman. I'm going to run her and I'm gonna get this bread. I'm gonna do whatever it's gonna take. Fuck that. Fuck you. I'm doing whatever God. I'm going for broke. Those people that grew up like in the good times, I always use good times because good times is a good dynamic of that.
Mm-hmm.
None of those kids wanted to be James. You know what I'm saying? None of
Okay.
them wanted to work in the blue collar. Then none of those children, none of them, if they
Mm-hmm.
could not go to college and make it out and do whatever they wanted to do
Mm-hmm.
from a macro, Thelma is she would have broke bad. If that continued, Thelma would have been a high quality hoe on the street, crack. If
Mm-hmm.
she didn't go to college, she would have been on the
Right.
street. Because
Mm-hmm.
she's from the projects. She would have ran into a guy that's in her environment that would have chose up on that. And what I'm saying is the masculinity that was allowed to progress in black communities was the aggressive kind that basically used to subvert us all the same way. It was manifested in a way because it was allowed to manifest that way. And then once it got out of control, it had to be curtailed again, but it was suppressed by legal action, which showed up in the 94 crime bill.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, really the 86 crime bill that was passed by Reagan with, the whole crack cocaine disparity. And then basically you had 94 to kind of like just put the cap on it and just buried our whole generation, which is me and Paradox generation, where most of us went to jail for life and all that type of stuff. Like we got partners of ours that's still doing life in jail. You know what I mean? So from that, but we don't have examples of women running shit. Like I'm gonna be honest with you, BGS. That wasn't what I saw. And like I said, like
I didn't see that either. That was coming out.
I understand that there were black men that was, on the outs and stuff like that, and didn't get, didn't get access to the women and stuff like that. But from a child that's growing up in it and seeing, from the inside out, the men that was running the house, even if it was like
and not in the house. Yeah, still had that shit.
And there was a rotation of these guys in and out of single family households, man. They had maybe three or four different chicks that they had single family baby mamas, single households that supplied until they went to jail. Okay. And these women were actually using them for resources. But guess what they're feeding their sons. Okay. This is how you show up. You show up with the money, you show up with the resources, and when you're not any good anymore, we're gonna cast you aside. That's what happened to a lot of those billboys. Okay.
Hey, Paradox, just as a question of, like you can kind of keep me honest on this. Did you see women running things, man, when we was growing up or coming up? Or what did you see from your point of view? Your conservative lens.
That laugh tells it everything. Okay.
I might align a little bit more with probably BGS, because I know what y'all are saying, but I would have to. I think from where he's coming from, I'm not obviously speaking for him. Obviously, that's crazy, but it might be something deeper that you're missing. So I can't even, based on how he's even talking, I probably can't answer that at this moment. I'll have to think about that a little bit, because my knee-jerk reaction is to say you're right if I just think about it just straight up. But if I dig maybe a little bit, that might not be all the way. I just got to think about it a little bit longer.
So I want to say this, like, for me, for a black boy, a lot of black boys always wanted the ultimate control was controlling being, I'm the man of the house. I'm not sure, and I'm pretty sure we've all heard that sometime, whether it was a teenager boy or it was that man who had the girl who they had a crib. But the black man, his first societal government that he always wanted control of that truly was stolen. His birthright was stolen from was that of the control of the household. And by any means necessary, if I gotta deal with the devil or whoever, I'm going to go do that. Now,
Mm-hmm.
how that man went about getting that win, we've seen it different ways. Yeah, I get ultimately I get it where, I get where, BGS is saying like, hey, well, they did it for a woman. But a lot of men were like, damn, like I seen, I just wanted control. And so as I say, like, it may not have been the conventional traditional control, but yeah, I grew up in that type of household where you was a black house, you was raised to, hey, your family go to church on Sundays. That's why they
Mm-hmm.
play hip hop on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
They everybody understand the communal meetings. They have some type of tribalism of either you belong with this group, this set, either you played sports or you was out there in the street or you had something going for you. But it was more of a tribalism of control of the house. Now the ultimate thing was the household. Who was going to be that man of the house? Now Big Mama, she was that of a forefront, which I think we leave that algorithm out at times. We leave out the Big Mama algorithm. Big Mama was that of a I want to know how y'all would classify her in the proxy of that of the household because
She's
the
going to
white
be she's a matriarch. Big Mama's a
now,
matriarch.
but now when I think of it, the white man had a TV show called Mama's House, and I'm trying to like they had that, we had Big Mama. You understand what I'm saying? And I see what I'm saying. So I'm trying to make sure when I see that. Now, Big Mama had a son that have not the Marty McFlys, but if I remember back in the day, the white man used to be like you had to be machoism, blue hair, you had to be the Arnold Schwarzeneggers, you had to be the Sylvester, the Chuck Norrises, but their sons weren't like that. Something happened to that society where they just said, you know what, damn. Now you start to see the nerds or Revenge of the Nerds, where baby, you can be whatever you want to be, and you can get a good girlfriend. I feel like we got to even the pool. Now, for black men, the pool was never evened out for us. That's why I say it's kind of. That's why I say I get what bolts from me as the younger the baby of the
Mm-hmm.
of the group versus that of somebody who was a man in his prime, and
Mm-hmm.
y'all would have been the teenagers. So we're looking at it from three different, what I'm saying, hindsights of that of the terraforming of our society of manhood. And it was never a fair equal balance with God. We just never really got that because you would give me black boys either went with the coach, they went with the Freemason group, or they went with somebody in the church, or they went with somebody in the streets. But that black boy found his masculinity somewhere with some group. Now, what happened was the woman started saying, I don't trust none of these groups. I don't trust none of these groups. Fair enough. Fair enough. Because some groups, there wasn't no more of a give back. Like usually when a man he grows to a certain height in his society, he's supposed to put back into society.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what was always being told after a while to the black boy to come back. It was leave, don't ever come back. So after a while, they're like, well, the shit, there's no return on investment. I'm giving you a black boy. I mean, woman, the white man take it. So I don't want y'all going out there doing all that freedom fighting shit. I want y'all to stay behind and just protect me. Who gonna protect mama? Who gonna protect your sister's brother? That's why.
Exactly.
That's why.
Exactly.
Right.
That's
But
why
I grew up listening to the biggies talking about how he became a man selling Sega Genesis games and different stuff, providing clothes and food because there was
for his
no
daughter.
man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there was no man, so he became the man.
And black boys have been doing that forever, right? Go down south, right, where if there was supposed to be somebody actually go to school, it's for the girl, right? The black boy had to quit school in the sixth grade, actually go to work, actually provide for the family.
Yep.
But was that a flip? Was that not a flip of society? Because
No,
the
no, no,
black
no,
woman at one time was, but the black woman was asked to quit school at a young age to
no,
take
no,
care of
no.
the house, and
Go
the
go
black boy continued on education.
go back and read go back and read the literature, right? Okay, and go back to the Mohawk Conference, 1890, right? Where white folks said the black men didn't need to learn how to read, but education was actually for the black woman. That's where this stuff actually comes from. So by the time you get into the 20s, 30s, and 40s, the women were actually always more educated than the men. Always.
And they were kicking men out the house in the 20s and 30s and 40s that people don't
Wait,
talk about either.
go back and look at the Philadelphia Negro, right? Where the boy said if a black man couldn't find a job and he was married, the black woman kicked him out of the house and got
Kicked
her
them out.
another man. Yeah, got her another
And
man.
that's going way before the 50s. We talking about the 20s and 30s for
We
sure.
no, we talking about the 19th century. We ain't going
Yeah.
way
Now,
back.
Yeah.
This
and
this
that
this
is that not a transitioning process of manhood that
no,
literally that you
it,
need to get the hell out of the house with? I mean,
no, no,
why would I keep you in the house?
in other words, what we're trying to define is what is manhood, right? Okay, how do you
Right?
define it? What is this goals of manhood, right? And it's different in ADOS community than it is in other communities. It
Yep.
just is.
I think one of
That's all.
those.
That's all I was saying.
Yeah,
No, no,
go ahead.
I hear you. Right.
Go ahead, Dead
I,
Set. And then
I,
before you come up, you got to answer those two
DC,
questions real quick.
before you, DC, can I ask BGS a sidebar question
Go
real
ahead. Go
quick?
ahead. No, please.
So then we get back on topic. It is real quick. I think that black people are like obsolete in this country. So what is your just a quick thought on the Latino cartel, the 100 million Latinos in America and that dynamic,
Is
and
that
the
many?
Asians and also the Asians that are here, and that that's really what's going on right now. Like we're sort of, I would have considered it probably obsolete, and that's sort of the new power groups
We are.
dynamic in this
I,
country.
Yeah,
Am I
we
wrong?
are.
Am I missing that?
I'll try to circumvent the
Not to get too heavy, just a quick one,
oh,
and then
okay,
just we can get
okay,
back.
okay. What basically is transitioning to people of color as white folks are declining in number and power is transitioning into something else. So the grip that was held by the United States, in this area is declining because their numbers are declining. They can't hold on to it. So you have to import more people. So you import more Latinos that are, or other people of color. Eventually what's going to happen, you won't be the same culture that you were 50 years ago, just
Right.
by the different groups of people coming in and bringing in their culture and their tradition, because it's going to be different. So it's going to evolve over time. So that's what's coming. It's just a matter of demographics
Are
will
are
tell you.
blacks prepared for this change? Are people
No,
even looking at that at all?
black folks are not only not prepared, they're denying that's even happening, and that's the problem I have, because I always have to tell, when I actually bring black people outside the little bubble into what's going on that's affecting them. They say, well, we talk about black people. Black people want to jump back inside the bubble and ignore that there's other forces on the outside of them.
Yep.
They just do.
Okay,
Even
back to the bubble. I just want you to get that on record
yeah,
real quick.
that's what. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
It did. It did.
Okay.
It did.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Dead Set, go ahead, man. And remember the two questions before you get into your diatribe, but I want you to go ahead and answer just to keep it steady flow of what we've been doing here.
well, I mean, what's the
So we can
question?
understand what you're meaning when you talk about manhood. Like first, what is your definition of general manhood, and then what is your definition of so-called black manhood? That you can define that however you want to define it.
Well, for me, there is no difference. So when we're talking about manhood, um, manhood requires some type of responsibility or dominance over a certain areas of activity or of your group, because historically these are the things that men have done, and I don't think we can really differentiate that much between cultures when it comes to the cultures that survive in that type of activity. So I define manhood as sort of mastery over your environment and over your group, be it your family, be it your society, and the physical environment as well, the laws that you create, that whole 9 yards. And whether you decide to get with a group such as, if the military is an apparatus that defines what manhood is in your society, then that's what you would join.
I respect that.
All right. So what are some of your thoughts about what was been said so far?
I think that I've always stated that one of the largest differences between Black people in America and all other groups is that we have never been in a position where we have had mastery over those things that I just described. And so therefore, and we talked about this before, mastery over our women that was essential because that controlled who the heirs were going to be. something that, white men did for a long time. They're not doing it so much now, but they do still control money. They still control law. They still control government. We never had that. So culturally, for us, as we just stated, we imitate what white men are doing, but can we really define it for ourselves?
Okay, so it sounds a little bit of a contradiction of what you just said, right? So,
Well, it is a contradiction.
well, here's what I want to kind of map out, because this is sort of kind of like what I wanted to kind of get a clear distinction on. Do you think that manhood is manifested in groups, or do you think it's manifested in individual themselves?
It's a group. Manhood is always group.
Okay, so manhood is the group. Okay, so there's such thing as what we call black manhood. Okay, so the black manhood is clearly defined by its grouping, or its history dynamic that is portrayed by a group that is suppressing black manhood. Do you think the black manhood is suppressed to a degree? Do you believe that that's a real thing, or you think that that's not real?
I think that's a real thing, because black manhood is a facet of white manhood.
Okay, go further with that.
Okay. If you look at what black men are well, Adolf's black men, and where we came from, yes, we are a facet of what they created. And therefore, it's sort of like being a stepchild. The father doesn't really have to recognize that child. He can like, okay, I'm just going to give him scraps, give him just enough to survive.
Right.
But that child's manhood would be defined by what that father did. And so I think black people are in the same position.
So being that we are in that group dynamic, right? So what I was talking about earlier was not that kind of black manhood manifested itself outside of the community, because we know that it did. And anytime that it did, those cuffs come on you, or even within the community, those cuffs still came for you. So the idea of generating negative behavior by being that kind of anti-establishment that was kind of portrayed as a good thing within our so-called community at that time period, you say like let's say between where it was really on height in 81, which is the beginning of what BGS said, the cracker, to like 2001, that 20-year period, right? Where, you have a lot of behavior that was really focused in on that kind of portrayal of negative black masculinity. The only way that you could be dominant is having these many hoes, flashing money, cars, clothing, hip hop culture, whatever the case may be, which is a subculture of what pimp culture was during the disco era, snorting coke and all that, having all the hoes. But the reflection of that has always been what the major group was doing. So if you look at that and you see the tropes between those dynamics, is what I'm talking about. Can black manhood be defined separately from that, or is that even important? Or should we just be kind of labeling this as, okay, I'm just going to do what's productive and I'm gonna go my own way, which is what a lot of black men are talking about. And that's the reason why I used conservative and liberal, because it seems to be that's the distinction. Okay, I'm gonna go conservative because this tends to fall more in line with manhood than it does the so-called liberal policies and liberal ideas of what it is. So if you're telling me if I have to decide between this white man not recognizing me as whatever equal to him, I can deal with that or swallow that a lot better than, the LGBTQ stuff that's over here. You know what I'm saying? Like I can't deal with that at all. So that seems to be the choice that seems to be the choice that's being made, or these are the confluence of choices that are trying to be made by men and things of that nature when they deal with the political aspect, because politics is an avenue for power here, soft power in this country. Like, you can't really get things done unless you are aligned with some kind of body politic to move people in a way to where you can get things done locally, statewide, whatever the case may be, your jurisdiction, doesn't matter. You got to have people that are basically agree with your ideals or your subset of whatever your thought pattern is or whatever to get things done. Like it's almost like trying to reverse same-sex bathrooms in elementary schools. You see parents and fathers in particular struggling with the idea that their children are basically being indoctrinated into this universal world of sexual
Fluidity.
yeah, where there's a lot of different terms that are used for sexes, where we didn't grow up that way. You know, it was man, woman, you know what I'm saying, heterosexual, you know, there were some gay people, but you know, that's them, but it was still separate. It wasn't taught at such a young age. And it was still kind of taboo. But now it's open season.
Well, I
So,
don't.
you
I
know,
mean, to shorten the point, I think those things are temporary. Historically, they've always been temporary. Those things are just they're trends that will come and go in along the course of humanity. Because truth be told, if environment rules, then biology also rules. And there's no way to get around the fact that most people are going to be heterosexual. Most people are going to act in that fashion because our biology requires it. So I'm not that concerned about, whether this body politic follows LGBTQ, except for where it influences my children, because I know that sooner or later it's going to track back because there's no biological imperative to that. So it's a dead end road.
I don't know about that one though, but that we will see how it tracks out, because I think it's just a repeat. It's a repeat of a failure of a system, of a culture altogether. I think that in Rome, Rome went that way, where it was just the rules kind of went out, the traditional values of what made Rome what it was kind of fell by the wayside, and then these other tropes kind of introduced itself to kind of weaken it from the inside out. And I think the same is happening here.
But I think
So it's a cycle that, you're right, I think it's a cycle that repeats itself, but at the end of the day, it has a residual effect of affecting the overall group together, because there's so much disparity in ideas that it's hard to govern people that are at war with themselves at a point where you can kind of see there's violence that may take place, or revolutions, little small sparks of groupings of people basically going at it with each other, and kind of like in bad ways. But we'll see how technology advances itself, where some of these things may not be defined the way we define them anymore. They may not have a place. They may be defined as something totally different. You see what I'm saying? Like, people can become half machine, half human.
Well, I mean, that begs the question then, because then we have to redefine what human is.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I agree. I think that's if we can push it to the limit, as far as like they're already starting to have like artificial wombs, which means that would change the definition of what people would consider a mother to be. That would change the whole aspect of what a family is. So it will go down and down the line. So we'll see.
too soon to tell, because when it comes to things like that, especially the genetic engineering, until we see some real outcomes, maybe like 20, 50 years from now, then we really won't know.
I don't think
you're talking about scale too, right? You're talking about scalability.
I think you're
Scale,
talking about scale.
scale,
Yeah,
and
scalability, because people have surrogate parents. Gays go adopt, or they have surrogates that have produced children, but it's on a, I would say, acute level. But to scale something to mass production, to produce, say, I don't know, 100 million people, that'll be
I mean, but
interesting.
when you're thinking about surrogates, we're still following the biological imperative.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, so that's the reason why it's such a non-issue with me.
Yeah, you just deeming, like, I think my thing is that if they define it differently, then the definitions change on what said family is, if technology is still allowing them to call themselves a family too.
Yeah.
So if two women can have multiple children and say, well, these are my this is my DNA that's probably put into the first child, and then second child would be her DNA put into that particular child, and then
That's
they
not
have
normal.
family.
It's not,
So you would connect that, and it will be defined as a so-called family, but when you really look at it,
it's not.
It's following the dynamic of having a sperm donor. It is doing that, but the sperm donor is being obsolete at this point. Now, what I'm saying is, when they eliminate the womb, when you can basically generate babies outside of that
the womb, it's already there.
It's
You
right.
haven't scaled it yet.
If it gets
Yeah, you gotta
scaled,
scale it.
when it gets scaled, that's the scary part, because then now you're talking about a
Well,
different
depending on your position of power, is it
20
scary? Because you really don't want parents. Because I feel like in this country, they've made a concerted effort to maybe suppress or remove parents anyway, because you really just want human babies,
Right,
regardless of
you want
gender, to do
yeah,
what you need to get done
you
at a
want
certain
production.
level.
But
Right.
there's a more important question within that, though, because you're talking to also what's naturally going to come with that is the removal of randomization when it comes to genetic outcomes.
True.
Because you're actually going for a certain specific genetic outcome.
Yeah,
And
very
we don't
scary.
even know what the outcome of that's going to be because it's been random for so long.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You like I say, when you can limit, when they starting to figure out where they can kind of eliminate genes in certain people, where they could say, okay, you want blue eyes? Okay, blue eyes here. You want green eyes here. Like,
Mhm.
you know, they can touch up DNA and things of that nature. Yeah, we were moving towards a very unique time period in what will be defined.
But you're talking
human
about
is.
boutique. You're talking about boutique babies. What I'm talking about is slave labor babies.
No, I'm talking
where
about
you won't
Aldous
even care.
Huxley.
You're talking about Brave New World type.
Yeah, I'm
stuff.
talking Brave New World shit. Yeah, because
Yeah.
if we're talking about scaling up
Yeah.
wounds,
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you're talking about genetic
Mass production.
outcomes.
Yeah,
Mhm.
genetic outcomes, mass production, all that kind of stuff, which is
Yeah.
on what they're arguing about right now. That's the
Because
debate.
I may want children. I may only want them to be alive for maybe 15 years, so I can maybe offset some of the genetic abnormalities because
Right.
how I'm trying to position it. So
Well,
because you're gonna have to adjust for that
But
anyway.
you
Obviously,
remember what we did, like when they got control of, when they was able to clone a goat. I think it was a goat out in Switzerland.
it was
It was
a sheep. Yeah.
a sheep. They was actually, it was grown. It was a grown
Yeah.
sheep, but they cloned it, which
Yeah.
scared the living daylights out of them, because when you do something to that level, that means that what Paradox is basically talking about, you're scaling somebody that's basically skipping the growth process of
Right.
even naturally dealing in a natural environment, like how we grew up in, from understanding things from a child, like things are in stages. So now you're taking a baby and it's in a grown body, so
Mhm.
now it's like, it's a different type of understanding how the environment treats such a thing.
Mhm.
Like, is that human? Is that,
And how that creates
it
a
creates a
depth.
different, it creates a different dynamic, because the way we understand the world is part of what you said, the physical manifestation of it. Like,
Mhm.
there's a child, there's a mother somewhere involved, there's a father somewhere involved.
Mhm.
Now, we have already been able to remove one of the sexes to have such things happen in a family. We have been able to do that. We
Mhm.
don't need the one for another. You can buy eggs on sale, you can get sperm on sale.
Mhm.
Only thing is, you have to have the host, or you have to have the so-called person providing. So whatever the thing may be, but when you can remove both variables,
Mhm.
right? And then you have a situation where we're dealing with a different definition of what we trying to call, what are these people now? Because technically, if it can think and it's a flesh and you're gonna breathe, it does the same thing that we do: shit, eat, sleep, and fuck. I mean,
Just better.
right?
better.
And then you can kind of put a chip in his brain and kind of have it directed into a certain way, or you can
Oh, yeah.
program it to be. I mean, there's some kind of things where
well,
singularity.
they won't be able to have
singularity
sex.
gets
By the
into-
way, they probably be genderless as well. Just so you know.
So we
They
basically
don't have
talking
to be.
some Star Wars clone shit. Basically, we have
Right,
yeah,
we
the
can have a
population
whole Westworld. We can have a whole Westworld
That's
situation
Westworld.
going on where
Yeah,
it gets
it's-
blurry. It gets
it is-
blurry between what's real and what's not real, because the people that had the robots, they created an environment where they made in Westworld, the thing that makes it dynamic is that they created the Westworld, and the machines surpassed the humans, and they made the humans the amusement park, and they were the ones running everything. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, they took over, and they were the ones basically saying, okay, now you are programmed, we're not, we're the free thinkers.
Well, probably natural born humans would just be plugged into some sort of, video game, virtual reality, where and live their life out that way.
I mean, but I do have a question though. Like, at what point necessarily? Like, I mean, like, I know humans are really arrogant. Like, I know that, right? But are we really that stupid though?
Yes, we are.
Yes.
Yes. The short answer is yes.
Yeah. I don't think
Like-
the powers that be really care about people or humans or any of your
I mean,
opinions
like,
and your
come on,
thoughts.
like at this point, can't
They just need
we already have
labor.
all the Terminator movies already out, so we know not the Skynet.
But how expensive is it to entertain us at this level. It costs a lot of money to keep us in check. It'll be easier just to
Right.
manufacture us
The
to get
control.
labor versus trying to
Right.
do all this stuff to entertain us and keep us. It's costly. I think
Mhm.
this way.
And it's
Are
and
we
it's
talking
and it's
about?
unpredictable. It's unpredictable too, because where there's so-called a scarcity thing involved, that there's always going to be revolution that's going to be part of the resistance that's going to always portray itself. And it's always that's something that's been repeating itself in human history. Like they've been trying to find ways. The minority of people have always tried to find ways to control the majority of people. They've been able to do it for so long that the people that's in the know is psychological at its core. So that's why when I spoke about manhood is I think it's almost like it's like a program at this point, that it is built into a physical dynamic that is real for us. So you can see somebody that's a boy that becomes a man. That's why people don't like to be called boys, or call me a man or call me a woman, and don't call me trans and all that. That's why those definitions are very, very important, because that gets to the core of their identity. Because like, okay, if I'm not a woman, then what am I? Then you can be a woman and you used to be a man, then what is that saying? You see what I'm saying? That's why the whole definition.
DC, how hard was it to be like, you're a so-called black person, right? A male, and you got a sign on you saying "I am a man," right? And then the white people are like, "Damn, we got to do that now." So they're sitting back like, "Man, now I gotta,
Right. I gotta accept livestock, what was considered livestock 50 years ago, as an actual so-called equal living human being. So
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go that far. I'm not gonna go there. I'm gonna go that route. But when I basically had,
I normally stop people when it gets down to this. I really want to be clear. What do you think was going on in the 50s and the 60s here in this particular country?
1950, 1960?
Yeah. What do you think?
I mean, like, I understand the situation. I mean, you want me to go like in detail?
No. What do you think that black men were fighting for, in particular, black men?
Basically to be quote unquote basically to have their own humanity, I guess, because you've been basically treated like animals.
More than humanity.
They want to stop the terrorism by white people.
Exactly. And a lot of that means manhood.
Yeah.
See, because if you incorporate us as being a man, then all of this black manhood would not be a thing. You understand that, right? This is Zulu, right, that I'm talking to. Because
I mean, it's always one and only.
A lot of people, well, that's just victim talking. No. This is not victim talking, victim splaining. It's very consistent to the trope, because whether you in these spaces or in other spaces, there's a reason why you're not in white spaces, particularly speaking about so-called manhood from that general aspect, because you're going to see things are not going to basically line up the same way. Your mind is not going to view it the same way as them. There are going to be some things that you're going to rock with, and then there's going to be some things like, well, that ain't really my experience.
It really wouldn't be that. It would just more or less necessarily. I kind of when you talking about with the different groups of people, I basically kind of look at that as simple as this. I'm on this side because genetically you was born on this side. It's kind of really if you look at it that way, it is what it is. But
culture.
Well, you have slave genetics and you have master's genetics.
No. Exactly. I think you misunderstand what I mean by what I mean by that necessarily is like you mean like quote unquote like. All right, if I went to war with Japan, or right now, a white person that went to war with Japan necessarily, he was just born white necessarily, right? He was just born in that environment at that point in time to be white necessarily, right? And his people was going to war, and he was just a male at that point in time, born, so he had to fight. That's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah, and it has its consequences. That's what we're talking about. But that within itself even has an effect on how you even gets involved with your women. It's the same thing with how feminism basically is infected the whole world, right? The whole group dynamic, like how feminism can
be just talking about. We freed the slaves, the women. We freed the slaves.
Exactly. You know what? It's a funny thing that you also say that, because when you think about what's going on, what the white women are saying right now, how they're attacking the white men who got them all of this comfort that they have now, and they're saying shit like cis white heterosexual men are so toxic and all this other nonsense that they're saying.
Right.
This is what happens when you take the leash off the dog and it craps all over the place and you get it on your shoe.
No, I actually think that's the opposite. I think this is when you give somebody power without necessarily cost. Because like, let's be honest, like if the women were holding the financial cost or the real actual cost of their decisions, they would be questioning, they would be begging for help, right? And this wouldn't even be a reality. The only thing, the reason this is happening is because, like you said, there's individuals in a society, giving them these financial help and giving them this backup. So basically, it's a 2-on-1 situation. The women on one side plus the other individual versus regards to working class individuals.
It's the whole society. One individual or a group of individuals don't decide that. It's the whole society has to come in and decide
Exactly.
that.
How old are you?
Yeah. So basically,
One time.
How old are you? Lulu?
BGS.
Well, what age group are you in? I just for
right now I'm 30, about to be 31. I'm a very old individual.
Well, not really,
He's
but
very old.
yeah, it's interesting
He
because
old
like I
head now.
said,
He over 30.
generationally you can see the space. Like I can tell when I'm talking to a younger person, like a significantly younger person, because it's just like that's not the way it is. Because I think if you can go back and you can look at how things have changed, like even in me and Paradox's lifetime, like to see where the words that we could use back when we was teenagers, like you could say death word.
I feel like a white man. Can't say the N-word no more. Damn it.
And you can't say, you will get lit up, fired, removed from your position. Everybody be like, nope, can't say that. Like, what's wrong with you? And the things that become normalized in the younger group seem to be so normal, and they think that it's always been this way. And it's like, nah,
exactly. I understand that concept. Like,
it's back to what you're saying, like people being born into something, and the danger of that is because if you don't know what preceded or what got you there, you would think that this is what normal
is. Yeah,
we should be supporting straight white men, regardless of the ultimate outcome of what that looks like. I would assume, right, to protect some of our own rights.
Believe it or not, some people have made that decision. I mean, they have decided, hey, I'd rather do that.
That is actually feasible, though.
Yeah, I'd rather do that.
That's not something I would do, but hey,
we may not have a choice though. If you want to maintain this civilization, and so don't worry about the. Go ahead.
Okay, I was going to ask two questions. Well, my first question was it was off the point, but I'm gonna bring it back to the point. My first question was like, I think it was DC and BGS, where in the sense that you said you have a lot of quote unquote, let's say humans running around that's not humans. Let's go with that, right? Eventually, it would. I can't really see no society where they don't either just take over. Don't that always eventually end up being like necessarily how it would eventually end up coming? Because if you're running the society, but you have them doing most of the work, so there has to be one of them that's actually smart enough to understand to do the work.
No. So you just remove that gene. You just remove that gene out of them. That rebellious gene. You just take it out.
I was about to say.
Yeah. Delete it.
Yeah.
And pray to God that Mother Nature don't bring it back somehow, like you do.
That's what I'm saying. Hey, Zulu. Like, for me,
it goes back to Brave New World again. Okay?
Exactly, because I was going to ask you, Zulu, have you read Brave New World?
I don't think I've read. I'm not gonna lie to you. You don't read around here. Was it on video? I probably didn't watch it.
It's been done like 4 different times in movies.
Yeah,
it's been done like 3 different times in series. It's a very old book.
I think Galactica is some similar to.
Oh, Galactica! I do know that though.
Yeah,
you mean Gattaca?
Editing? And,
yeah. Oh, Gattaca! Yeah, that too.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, my bad.
Yeah.
Is Gattaca it? Is that necessarily a equivalent?
Well, no, it's not the same, but it's built off the same tropes. They have done
equivalent.
They have done different movies. On the one with Taye Diggs and Christian Bale, the same thing with
Gattaca would be like a precursor to Brave New World.
Okay.
Brave New World's already established and well defined and already built out. Whereas Gattaca, they're just starting it.
1984 is another one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So like I gotta get out this society because I don't think this shit gonna work for me, bro.
It's going global, man. You can't get out of society.
That's what's so interesting. Yeah, you we could talk to people. You remember, as I said, we're from the era where it used to cost 10 cents to call somebody in Los Angeles. And now you can just use WhatsApp and you can call somebody in South Africa for free. It's
Yeah.
no charge. Like there's no boundaries on this, brother. Like you can't escape this.
In other words,
BGS.
Do you
yes, sir.
remember Arnold? Hold on. Do you remember Arnold Schwarzenegger? The coldest thing he said on the Rise of the Machines. They were like, "Well, I thought we ruined these." It's like, Judgment Day is inevitable. It just kept
Yeah,
trying. Like
it
it's
was already it
inevitable.
was already there.
It's nothing. Yeah, it's this scaled up a long time. There's nothing to stop it. It's going to find a way to get to its final conclusion.
Yeah.
Oh,
is
well,
what-
so you mean you
is
almost
what
have to
it is.
reset the whole planet then? That's what you talk about. Me, if you like,
We are a
We
system of
reset it
reset.
to what? That's the whole thing.
That's
oh
the
yeah,
question.
oh that's damn, that's fucking crazy, dude.
And the biggest things you have to consider, Zulu, is the level of resistance that's going to happen before this thing turns itself over.
That's
So
what I'm saying. Yeah, now I
yeah,
see what you're
so
saying now.
we could actually, I mean, we could literally self-destruct in the
Well,
process of turning this over.
Will anybody make an argument that maybe, I don't know, maybe America too, but maybe parts of the Middle East are some of the last vestiges where people are trying to hold on to male-female dynamics?
Yeah, but I heard that was like South American
Is
and
that the war that we're having on one level, or no? Am I missing that?
The thing is, and this is something to
We're
where
misunderstanding that.
this is where this is why they hired Quigley, and this is why they've been trying to prove Quigley wrong for the last 60, 70 years, right? Is basically what Quigley told America a long time ago, right? Okay,
yeah.
is that your environment actually controls culture, defines what your culture is going to be. Okay, where it is, right? First thing that he said, right? Second thing he said, if you adopt the structure and the culture and the physical environment of Western culture, guess what's going to follow? The ideology. It's inevitable. You can see it in Korea, you can see it in Japan, you can see it in China,
Mm-hmm.
you see it in Africa going on right now. Okay, you can see it in the Middle East. Okay, they're letting women drive. They allowing women to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Allowing women
Allowing
to
them to read and go to school, which is crazy.
Oh damn. So that's
I was,
so that's
I
the
was
problem then. Basically, we keep doing that. Basically.
when you change your environment, you change the culture, right? That's what the black pill is actually. The guy that actually talked about the black pill is actually talking about, right?
Well,
Unless you go ahead.
here's another thing, though. I don't mean to interrupt, but I want to make this because it's clearly hard for the connect. So when you hear women talk about old tropes about men not being traditional, that's just their old programming coming seeping back
Right.
in but men are reflecting it back to them saying, but y'all not traditional women.
Oh yeah, of course that.
So you're modernized and you've been able to do all these different things. It's not even generating a more traditional response. Is going to be different. You're not going to have the same thing where man is just going to work and just take care of the family and have everybody at home. This, not that. I mean, that's not going to be.
That's why they're trying to adopt a black male model for the rest of the world, basically, where the man does that and doesn't get a reward.
Oh no, I understand what you're saying because I'm starting to see that in Uganda now. Currently, like I said, I go there regularly, right? So when I go down there, they basically the quote unquote the dowry thing is kind of like it's not
dying off. Yeah, it's dying off. Are you ADOS or you
bro? Like my nigga, you not see the name?
Atlanta, yeah. No, he's from Atlanta.
FBA ghost.
Just because you FBA don't mean that you don't have no.
Go ahead,
bro, do you not hear his accent, bro? Do you not see that name? I thought you would have put 2 and 2 together. Like
how far did you go back on European women misbehaving, as far as trying to press women? I guess probably with some men trying to press either the kingships or whatever, trying to press. Especially when democracy got introduced or republics got introduced, starting to make noise and press against marriage or starting to press against those dynamics. That goes back probably 600-700 years, at least in the European culture.
No, the European culture really it started, believe it or not, and we actually with the help of Green Gorilla, we traced it back to Locke. Locke was like mid 17th century.
Yeah, okay.
John Locke.
And John Locke, he actually proposed liberalism was actually the antidote to what we call authoritarian feudalism, right? Okay, and what Locke was proposing, even though he was a heretic back then, is that women should have the same access to their offspring as men do. Okay, that was the first idea, what we call feminism, right? The first iteration of it. In fact, this feminists actually go back to Locke, to that ideal, right? And what would really the big switch over, okay? And I don't know if I'll actually send it to you guys. It came from a note from Columbia Law, right? Talking about this the paternus patriae, right? Basically the rule of the father, the state intervening the rule of the father, right? But the real changeover came in when the industrial revolution came in and took the women and children out of the home and put them into the factory. That's the big switch. That's when women started to be independent and they have an independent mindhood and wanted their children for themselves and started divorce and capture the children. That's when right after that they started to actually recruit for what we call the 10 years doctrine, where the first 7 years the woman was actually preferred to have the child, and then that was extended to basically almost adulthood, which is 16 years. Okay, that's the further iteration because you change the environment by bringing in machines, taking the women out of the home, away from the farm, away from the household, and put them into the factories. That's where the change was. That's when women started to rebel.
So I do have okay. So I was basically want
Let me see if that answered Paradox's question first. Okay.
I want to stay in the past, but you did a good summary, so I don't even have to, to
Okay.
go back
Yeah.
to the beginning.
It doesn't go. They do before that because of
Because I was looking at some history, reading about a bunch of stuff just back in the
pa-
13,
pa-
14, 1500s, and trying to figure out where I'm just talking about Europe specifically, just
okay,
in
okay.
different in
But make
the main country, the main
oh,
empires,
oh,
were some of them either being manipulated to start
no,
to disrupt, or were they
no,
naturally
no.
trying to push
It,
against
it was
men, or
it was organic inside of the culture and organic inside
yeah.
of the environment they're in. Because you got to remember, what we call Western patriarchy started with the Hittites in I think it was 1100 BC, something like that. And
Hmm.
that's where it spread. That's the first iteration of what we call Western patriarchy, right? Of the form of it, and it didn't end until the 17th, the 19th century,
Hmm.
the late, the late 18th century, early 19th century, when women that were actually by the state taken out of the homes and put into the
Hmm.
factories. Okay, and
Hmm.
then that's called a disruption, and then the state had to step in, and that's where we have this or what I call as Hobbes called the Leviathan, actually dictating who gets what, because the children are actually basically de facto wards of the state, and basically
Hmm.
the men and women actually assigned parental rights. Okay, that's why I said
Hmm.
rights. Like before that, but man owned his children. Okay, the
Hmm.
state couldn't step in and take his kids because he owned those children. Right now, the state can step in and take the kids for any number of reasons. Right? Yeah, we do think that you're on crack. Oh, we think that
Hmm.
the kid's not fed enough. Oh, we think the kid is not educated. Blah blah blah. Okay, we're gonna just come and take the kids and give them to somebody else. The state owns the kids now.
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
I'm basically so that basically quote unquote would therefore enter quote unquote the inner civilization because men would be like
No,
I'm not
no,
having no
no,
kids for
no,
you and
no,
therefore
no,
so forth and
no,
so on
no,
and
no. Civilization will go on. How you organize people, okay? How we organize people, how we organize people inside of a society, it's different. Civilization will actually go on because as long as there are people
Hmm.
around, okay? They'll always organize in a different manner. How you organize civilization is different than patriarchy, right? Patriarchy is just one form.
Yeah, the
Right.
definitions would change. That's all.
Definitions and how you the setup, the culture, the
Yeah,
mores, and all the other different kind of things. And depending on your environment, and because
yeah.
the wedlock birth rate is spreading, is because the structures, because physical environment is actually spreading all over the world. Now it's actually carrying all this stuff that we think is negative or we think is negative with it. Okay, it's carrying it with it. Like
Well,
like
that
uh,
they made marriage useless, almost useless.
well, marriage is useless. Marriage again is not ordained from God. Okay, it's a way to organize people. Marriage is a way to actually bring a man and woman together, actually raise children. That's what it's there for. It's not there to actually
Exactly.
be define your manhood or your womanhood or anything like that. It's there for a particular purpose, right? If that
Okay.
purpose is no longer there because you don't need children as many children anymore,
Hmm.
then guess what's going to happen in marriage? That's really what killed marriage, right? Is the lack of 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 need for children. If you got 9 kids, you need to be fucking married. You know.
Mhm.
Hey, definition time, because Zulu, you didn't define manhood and what black manhood is, and AB, you didn't either. So I need that from you, Zulu, really, really quick, real fast. What is your definition
ooh
of manhood?
me can I go first?
Yeah, as I said, you, Zulu. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fucking around, bro. Basically, I'm not
About
gonna
to
lie
say, I
to
thought I
you.
heard some sugar real quick.
Nah. Basically, I don't know when I kind of look at manhood. Basically, however you want to kind of define it with within your best interest.
That's
Like
very feminist
basically, when
view.
I look at it, like, through my
We are in
context of my
trouble.
eyes,
We are.
what's that, like? I mean, like if
Oh,
you're a man necessarily, what's ever necessarily better, better as you and your individual self
oh, this
is
is your definition, man. This is up to you on how you
oh
want to
yeah, that's
define
how
it.
I look at it. Like that for
Okay.
me necessarily because that's what it is necessarily. You are a man because you are. Like, you know what I mean, right? Because there is a difference between you and the female, right? Because there's a female, there's a man, right? So it is basically whatever that man sees to kind of quote unquote make or shape into his reality is his reality. So it's kind of like that's how I look at it. You know what I mean? Like your standard of manhood can necessarily be changed from being if you the best hunter, you the man, you the best man, or you quote unquote, like you said, maybe in a different society necessarily. I don't know. Holding your breath for being the best fisherman may make you the man because you get all the chicks, because you get all the fishes, because you can hold your breath long. Like it to me, it really kind of changes from place to place, but it's just the ability to kind of either shape your environment how you see you want it to be, or something like that. Basically, yeah, I could sort of that. Or the first one, or the second one.
How will you define black manhood?
Wow.
It's hard, man. I guess it would be the same thing. You would just put black on it. I guess that's sad, right? Like I don't like I wouldn't necessarily put like a Chinese man.
Oh,
Same thing. It's just necessarily,
Oh,
he just got funnier eyes.
oh shit.
All right, we'll come back to that. Man. I just want to get through it. AB, you got something paradox you want to say? Man? You got something paradox or no?
I would have heard what Paradox has to say.
He's on mute. Go ahead, AB. Go ahead and give your definition of manhood, and then black manhood after that.
okay, my definition of manhood is somebody who imposes the environment, somebody who shapes the environment, someone who provides for his family, and et cetera, et cetera. Now, to answer the question, what is black manhood? Let's just keep it funky. It's whatever Mama says it is.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
So that's short and succinct.
I don't like it, but it is what it is.
Okay. Okay.
That's the definition of black manhood. It's not something I like. It's not something I live by. But that's the definition of black manhood, at least in this society.
That's interesting.
So I do have a question though, right? So I know a lot of people usually say quote unquote like provide for a family is part of like manhood, but like let's say if you an individual, like you a hermit and you go deep into deep into outer space or deep into into the mountains, right? And you just spend your life just to devoting to like I don't know Pacific thing, like to like martial arts or whatever that shit may be, right? And you just come back to society. It's like even let's say if you quote unquote didn't provide for a child, or you or weren't providing for a family, does that make you quote unquote less of a man?
That
It's
makes
like,
you an exception and an iconoclast.
say the last part again. I hear the last word again.
Iconoclast.
I do not know that phrase. Can you please give me? I'd rather ask. So
Okay.
a
I'll tell you what.
It makes
Well,
you go ahead. Go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm going to tell you what, because I'm not going to spoil it for you. You're on your computer. Go and look it up. Because in iconoclast, I'm just going to go ahead and give you the short version of it. It's somebody who doesn't just go with the norms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mean, so you basically a person who kind of looks for the it's an individual thinker. I'm guessing.
No, it's not an individual thinker. I mean, yeah, they are an individual thinker, but what an iconoclast usually does is he butts against what's normal for society.
Mm-hmm.
Sigma.
Not really Sigma. An iconoclast is more extreme than a Sigma.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unique individual elite idealist, I would say, is probably more so the thought pattern of what you would look at as somebody being an iconolist. So man, this is pretty deep, man. We're gonna probably go maybe 15 more minutes. We can get everybody's ending statements, man. I think that we did pretty much ran the gamut. We didn't win all the way from manhood to transhumanism. So I mean, you gotta go there too. That's a possibility. Technology got to definitely be into play when you talk about definitions. And if any example have shown through the answers as far as what we had, people come up and actually give their definition of what manhood is. It is clearly a generational thing. The definition seems to be very unique to generation, and then it kind of sparses out to whatever their environment was and their influences on how they would answer that particular question, which kind of shows in itself within the environment too. As far as when people talk about Black manhood, I think it's a very nuanced type of view, very hard to um, kind of hold it and say, well, this is what Black manhood is. Clearly, that may not be the case, but I think when you study it from a objective view, a larger view, we can get a little bit of a basis of understanding by seeing the patterns of behavior that have basically taken place before us. So that's a way we can look at it also.
Oh, he's doing a case study.
Yeah, that's why I said it's based on whatever Black women want, because that's what I've observed in the environments. Whatever the Black women at the time want, they want a thug. That became the so-called definition of Black manhood.
I take on a more universal view of manhood because there are some aspects of manhood that simply are universal.
True.
I don't think there's truly manhood without a sense of some type of conquest or conquering of the environment.
Mhm.
Agreed.
So whether it be gaining influence, whether it be economic conquest, whatever the case may be, manhood requires us to master some element of activity.
That's why when I went back to so-called the Black community back in the 80s and the 90s, the unique branch of what Black masculinity was able to kind of branch out and become what it was, even though it was negative, they were still able to sort of kind of be able to dominate the environment, even though it was in a very negative aspect of domination at that particular time.
I
So
agree.
to that point, that does speak to that point. Yeah, it's going to manifest itself either way it goes. It's just how negative and how positive it will be for the group is what it will overall be. And now we're being defined by that particular generation, basically. We're being defined by that group.
Yeah, and I think that to that point, I don't think manhood even requires any type of morality when it comes to that.
Exactly.
So, once we get into the positive and the negative effects, because those things are going to be subjective anyway. I'm sure the dope man thought he was doing a good thing,
Yeah,
whatever the
yeah,
case may be.
Yeah, positive is not a good word. I would say more so productive, non-productive. It's probably what
I would say positive. I think positive would be a good word.
well, positive is more. It is subjective because
Right.
people will look at what people did coming out of Europe as either positive or negative, depending on who's being done.
Yeah, depending on who's being affected. I mean,
Right,
that's
so
only
there's-
depends on who being affected. I mean,
But that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have overall it was productive because this is what it generated for that particular group that did
it was
whatever
positive
they
for
had
them,
to do.
Yeah,
Right,
but one of
exactly.
the biggest differences between people coming out of Europe and what we had is they had a defined philosophy. We were just building ours at that
Mhm.
time.
Mhm.
So, and their philosophies go all the way back to the Socratic method. I mean, we're talking what 300 BC.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what really you think that was the well?
Yeah, it's based off the elimination model. It's based off the scarcity model, basically.
Mhm.
Because I mean, even Socrates was given an example of if a man was basically poor, he had 3 or 4 children, right? If he
Mhm.
stole, is he a thief? Or was he a man taking care of his family? That's the thought pattern when you're dealing with a scarcity model. What would you do
Yeah,
to survive? That's why you watch these apocalyptic movies where they will have decisions where they got to make, where they got to kill people to get food or supplies. Who's bad, who's good is just not really, it's not really defined clearly in that kind of environment because everybody's making decisions based off what they think is best for that group or
no,
them to
it's
survive.
self-interest. It's self-interest is
Right.
prevalent.
It takes away the comfortability of choices made where it doesn't hurt other larger individuals or more larger individuals within that environment. So that's why that kind of takes place where the morality being included into these kind of discussions, it can kind of get murky depending on how somebody views that said point.
Yeah, I guess you. I guess. You
Yeah,
know, it depends on how big you make the circle. You know, it devolves from the individual and then outward. I guess so.
But that's the
yeah, you
reason
have
why
to
we
keep
should
in
not. Oh, I'm sorry, AB. Go ahead.
you have to keep in mind, given that we're from Africa, we came from a model of abundance model. We had like what 3 or 4 growing seasons.
Yeah, I
You
know
have,
the concept.
you have to remember, white people had like one growing season. If we
Oh yeah,
didn't
I
grow
know. Oh, trust
the
me.
right crop, yeah, you were done, and that's where that scarcity model comes from.
But
Yeah.
interestingly enough, though, it's like one of the reasons why I don't like it when we downplay religion, because religion is one of those philosophies that carries over, that that defines people and their philosophies, especially when they're going into a new area. And then, of course, over time, there's a certain erosion that goes with it, because as we change the environment, we change our belief systems.
Yeah, I
Or
understand
yeah,
that concept.
so it gets very murky. But the study of, like we were talking about, old philosophies, we just brought up John Locke, Socrates, Ju- Judeo-Christian Islam religion. All of that stuff comes into play into how we got to where we are today. And understanding that is, I think, it's necessary to predicting what tomorrow is going to look like.
Oh yeah, when I don't know when it comes to the mark, yeah, that's hey man, if you went back 2,000 years ago, they would told them.
But we were the same humans that we are now 2,000 years ago. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Exactly. I know.
But I digress. I'm sorry. Well, I'm not sorry, but I do digress.
Ah,
Do any of you guys have any final thoughts you want to say before we jump off, man?
ah. I would question. Well, we know necessarily the pale face ones had the quote unquote what do you call it, the scarcity mindset. So my question would be, right, if you had a group of people who lived in Africa who had still had the scarcity mindset necessarily, what would that even look like?
Pure supposition.
Would that necessarily change the creature's mindset as a whole, or would it necessarily, or would the scarcity mindset still necessarily take hold and be the predominant thinking pattern?
I don't know.
Because wouldn't that necessarily, quote unquote, basically change the environment? Like you say, you change the environment, you change the creature, right? So that's what I'm basically saying. So if it's basically just that you just change the environment, right, and quote unquote, wouldn't that change basically the outcome of the creature?
Well, I mean, the problem with what you're asking is that there are so many variables into how a group of people got from point A to point B, is that if you change one thing, it's like the butterfly effect. If you change one thing in that history, we don't know what the outcomes are going to be.
Okay. Cool. I basically got you. I got you.
Because remember that group interacts with other groups, which will affect whatever that destiny or path or whatever you want to call it is going to be. So we, change one thing in, I don't know, white American history or just European history, they may not even exist today.
Probably. Who knows?
Yeah.
50 on that. Okay, cool. I bet kind of answered my question then, because I think that pretty much answered what I was going to ask. But I can give it to somebody else.
Just to close out, thanks for having me up, and good to see the Codebreakers. Good thing.
Yeah, we had to come from outside the outer rim, man. Come drop one, while we felt like doing it. It's been a long time coming, but hopefully we can get back into the flow of things, man, and bring some more content and some thought-provoking concepts into the space.
Real quick, you see,
yeah.
Are they really about to arrest Trump?
I don't think so.
I don't think they want that can. I don't think people want that can of worms.
Paradox. I'm gonna let Paradox answer that question.
I get it. They don't like them, but I don't think people want them to open that can of worms. The can of worms.
Fascination
For the restaurants.
What?
Okay.
I couldn't hear if I was saying. It sounded like he said restaurants. If I couldn't hear him.
No, he just
Arrest
said
Trump.
restaurant.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, okay. I'm okay.
Paradox,
Wow.
what do you think? You think they're gonna arrest him come Monday? Paradox.
Trump wants to be arrested.
That might be the case
So,
too.
so the goal, I
That might be
think, from
true.
from his camp, right, and whoever maybe in the FBI or the police department, whoever wants to help him get elected, they will figure out a way to get him arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if he gets arrested, he will be elected.
Yeah, just not people normally don't forecast their arrest to that level, especially people that used to be a president of the United States. That doesn't.
It's genius.
Yeah, it's
As soon as I saw it
unbelievable.
on my feed, I'm online, I'm looking, oh yeah, this is it.
If he gets arrested,
He's a
it would be
cultural genius,
unprecedented.
by the way. He knows how to play people's emotions, especially in this kind of climate. He's very good at doing that. So
Yeah, the climate
I try to tell people, don't sleep on him. Don't sleep on him.
No, he's gonna probably get elected. So I mean, outside of something weird happening.
Yeah.
I know DC is not gonna agree with that yet.
I did not. See, we gotta wait up. We gotta hold on. That's a whole nother deal. We're not gonna get into it. We're not gonna get into it right now.
I was gonna put it in the title. That's why it's funny he brought it up. I left it alone, but I actually deleted it out of the title. I was gonna say, and Trump is arrested. You know.
Well, my closing thought is, first time on the Codebreakers. So thanks.
I thought you've been here before. This your first
No,
time?
I've always met you on Arts panel or BGS's
You
panel.
came here a long time ago, man. You know, we've been in and out, so there's a chance. Yeah. You know.
So that's all I got. Y'all have a good day.
All right, cool.
I appreciate it.
All right, man.
Okay, well,
Thanks a lot for you guys being here.
I think the focus on manhood was good.
Good.
Because,
Good.
Yeah, because I think I'm just going to keep it a buck. I think a lot of guys have a very inept idea of what manhood is.
Right.
It's completely unconnected to anything.
Right. It's just loose. Just saying
it's just out there.
It's just, I'm saying manhood like it means like it's just nebulous terms of so many different ideas. And if you don't pinpoint it to what you mean exactly when you're saying it, you're just talking to people about what their definition of manhood is. And it could be completely different than what your ideal is or what you even trying to portray during that whole conversation. That's why I said, define what you mean by manhood. And so when you talk about it, I know what you're talking about. That should be, especially for a term like that, that's so different depending on the person that you're talking to, for them to kind of define it for who they are, what their definition is, and you can have an idea of why they're saying the same things that they're saying about manhood in general. So it makes sense when you do it that way.
Just a system of control, bro.
But I think it's, to close out my thought, I think when it comes to the conversations about masculinity, I think often the idea of manhood is left out.
Mm-hmm.
And so I get frustrated with it sometimes, but at the same time, it's just sort of like, okay, this is what we're dealing with.
Right.
And so therefore, when we're talking about things such as, Mike V talks about organizing, what are we organizing on if we don't even have a philosophy or even a close idea of how we define ourselves?
Right. No, that's true. That's why I want to kind of get the idea where people are coming from, because before that, you can't really align with people that you may not even have an alignment with. You know what I mean? Like if somebody don't believe in the same tenets that you believe in, you're going to always bump heads, and it's going to always be an intersection there to where you have to first respect their thought pattern first before even having a discussion. So yeah, that's where I'm at with it.
Fair enough. Okay, well, thanks. Good show.
All right, man. Appreciate you for coming through, man. We talked to you a little bit later there, said, man. Thanks a lot, brother. All right. Yes, I'll be there in a minute, man. Let me get this girl, man, up on out of here. I promised I was gonna take her somewhere. So
no worries. All right. Well, this is the Codebreaker. This is Paradox.
And this is D. Until next time. Peace.